The Pokemon Adventures manga. You may have heard the tales of Red, Blue, and even Green, legendary heroes of Kanto who ended the reign of Giovanni and Team Rocket. The evil organization who even employed the likes of Lt.Surge, Koga, and Sabrina as its elites. But what if there was another legendary trainer you've never heard of? One that can match the power of Red himself. A trainer named Amarillo del bosque verde, Yellow of the Veridian forest. A trainer who can read the minds and hearts of all Pokemon, who teamed up with Red's Pikachu and saved the world! Prepare yourself for the complete tale of the Yellow Saga. Howdy there, I'm Krillic, and it's been a long time since I've covered the Pokemon Adventures manga. If you haven't seen the previous one, covering the entire Red arc, you probably should go watch that, because there's going to be a lot of itty-bitty little details there that are going to get added into this. But you can still watch this without having seen that, and you might just miss a few things here and there. I'm really excited for this, and we're going to get into it pretty quickly here. I'm just going to explain that we're going to go chapter by chapter, volume by volume, and as we go through, I'm going to, well, give you guys the actual manga itself, some shots from it, and then, of course, plenty of analysis, so that way you can not only know the story, but fully understand it as we go through, in addition to all the little hints to future parts that might happen in the future. Beginning with Chapter 41, Ponyta Tale, we open up with Agatha searching the ruins of Silphco, and in no time, she finds the device that helped fuse the legendary birds together, something she was clearly expecting to find. We're informed that 2 years have gone by since the fateful day that Red, Blue, and Green took down Silphco, and now we follow a Ponyta mailman who was saved by Red after the Ponyta was running a little too fast in the fresh air. It was a little too excited as it ran through these open fields of Pallet Town. Turns out by luck, a letter was being already delivered to Red, challenging him since he had become champion, something that has become a little bit more common since that fateful day. Through this, we immediately see a theme already returning from our previous arc. The idea that Pallet Town is a clean palette, a place that humanity has not yet ruined with industrialization and pollution, a place where Pokemon and humanity live together in unity. Something that is directly stated in the previous arc and is going to be a massive theme moving forward, so keep it in mind. We do get a moment where Bruno and Lorelei of the Elite Four are talking to each other. Bruno having nunchuck Pokeballs, which is it's absolutely wild. But what's even more wild is that Lorelei clearly notes how she sent the letter to Red on Bruno's behalf, and how Lance would want this to be taken care of. Without any further info, we know we have some rookie crushers here with Lance and the Elite Four, potentially. But more importantly, we are shown what Giovanni himself stated. A good Pokemon trainer is one that is just as well trained as his Pokemon, or her Pokemon. And Bruno is obviously incredibly well trained. To follow this, we check in on Misty and Oak to find out that while Red has disappeared for the last entire month, Green and Blue have also left Pallet Town on their own journeys. It turns out that Red is getting challengers left, right, and center, while also having to manage his approval for being a gym leader at Veridian's gym since Giovanni's departure, and Oak even complains that Red has not completed the Pokédex just yet, especially as he now knows there are more than 151 Pokemon out there to document, a recent discovery on his part, and one that warrants the creation of a brand new Pokédex. He notices a surge of electricity at the doorknob, figures, oh hey, it's gotta be Pikachu and Red, nobody else does this, puts on a rubber glove, walks on over, and when he opens the door, we, instead of getting a very happy Red and Pikachu there to greet Oak, we see a very badly damaged Pikachu. Cuts, burns, all, and my heart sank. And that is where the chapter ends, with meeting a new character looking for Pikachu. Chapter 42, Do Do That Doduo. As Oak is tending to Pika, he tells Misty that Bruno was the one to defeat Red. Otherwise, it would make no sense for Pika to be here on his own. He tells Misty to contact all the gym leaders about this, and that he is going to reach out to everyone that he can. That is, until the Sun Hat child walks in searching for Pika. Now, Sun Hat Kid completely ignores Oak, finds Pikachu, and after holding on to Pika, it seems as though he is healed. It even seems to know who this boy is, who Sun Hat is. Frustrated, Oak asks a multitude of questions. Where is Red? Did Sun Hat know that Red was missing? And what is Sun Hat's name? And while the boy says he knows Red is missing, he answers nothing else and simply states that he and Pikachu will free Red. This will be the first time in a while that we have seen Oak properly flustered, frustrated, even angry. Actually, the last time I believe we saw this was when Red first broke into Oak's lab, because Red ultimately is more than just some trainer. Red is one of Oak's prodigies, a second grandson, if you would. Oak isn't happy enough with the idea of Sun Hat just going out and doing this, isn't happy with the answers that Sun Hat is giving, so he challenges him to a battle, as he is using the Spearow that he had in the tournament against Green, and as the battle moves on through a ping pong of moves, Sun Hat does exactly as Oak told him to, and ends the fight, though he does this by making Spearow dizzy. As the Spearow falls, Sun Hat has Pika catch Spearow, and Oak soon realizes afterwards just how skilled Sun Hat is, because Sun Hat ended the fight all without causing any Pokemon to become injured. This is no easy feat in battle. You can prioritize not hurting your opponents as much as you want, pacifist runs have existed in the games, you name it, but to be able to avoid damaging your own Pokemon entirely at the exact same time, that is an incredible skill. Sun Hat, while small, is a gentle giant in the making. Oak tells Sun Hat to follow him and shows him Red's Pokédex, saying that he predicts that Red likely already knew that he wasn't going to win in this battle against Bruno. He also notes how Sun Hat called Pikachu by the same name that Red gave it, Pika, despite Oak having never used that name or that nickname in front of Sun Hat. And whatever is happening, it is clear that Pika trusts Sun Hat, even if he was rude for barging into Oak's lab without even telling him his name. Oak hands off Red's Pokédex, and as Sun Hat sets off, he wonders if Pika had actually suddenly gotten better after making contact with Sun Hat, or if it was just his imagination. Chapter 43, Sea Sea Seadra. We're getting like alliteration and consonants going on here a lot. Sun Hat is enjoying some time in Veridian Forest and fishing, as Pika just runs off for a moment, resulting in Sun Hat pulling a Sea King from the water, though he is unable to catch it as it escapes the ball and swims away. He even notes himself, well, I guess, I can't expect to catch it without a battle. Oops. Just showing the idea of you should be weakening the Pokemon, proving your expertise to the Pokemon in order to capture it. Elsewhere, though, in the forest, we find Bill returning to the manga on his way to Veridian City before he is accosted by Weezing and Sandslash. He even notes how, oh boy, I guess the ecology in the area is all thrown out of whack since Team Rocket used this all breeding and training ground, and that honestly made my heart sing. Because yes, just because you defeat the villain, in this case Giovanni, it does not mean that your job is properly done. Yes, he did use this area as a breeding and training ground for Pokemon to make them stronger, more lethal for his plans. And who sat here and cleaned them up? There's so much more to clean up, such as the Silph building, replacing the evil gym leaders, setting the SSN back to normal, and so much more. In fact, making Veridian normal again is likely one of Red's many new jobs as champion and as the new 8th gym leader, but he just couldn't get it taken care of. Or he just really didn't care. There's a chance he just got bored with things. Now, back to Bill. He intends to finish his data and bring his thesis to Celadon, which he states will stir things up. But soon he's distracted, as he does get away from those other Pokemon, as Pikachu comes flying through, and as he chases after it, he only falls into the water below. Bill is unable to swim, and Pikachu runs off to Sun Hat in a panic. At first, Sun Hat seems calm and doesn't seem to understand whatever's going on, just kind of like, yeah, you're sure, well, hold on, and just puts his hand to Pika, and in this moment, that I'm just gonna call magic for now, it seems like Sun Hat reads the mind of Pikachu, and they rush off to save Bill. Now, once Sun Hat and Pika do arrive and start pulling him out of the water with a rope, a whirlpool appears alongside the creator of said whirlpool, a wild Seadra. After a Thunder Wave doesn't seem to work and a Thunder Shock is able to damage the Seadra at least a little bit, a new problem rears its head as the rope snaps. What's interesting here is that Sun Hat claims that Pika is weak to water, and while this might seem to be a mistake, it isn't. Because yes, water may be conductive, but that is the problem. Because as an electric Pokemon, you might not be able to effectively use your electric attacks in the water, as it will conduct easily and be sent everywhere rather than to your focused target, thus making your attacks take more effort and not hit as hard. Sun Hat runs to his fishing pole before Bill and Pika can be swept away, grabs it, and somehow, without even throwing the Pokeball at the Seadra, he catches it, leaving everybody confused at what just happened. The confusion fades away, and we'll come back to all that later, when Sun Hat calls Pikachu Pika in front of Bill, which makes him realize that this is, in fact, Red's Pikachu. Snapping to Oak now, we see that he's preparing a letter for his Pidgeotto and sends it away, ending Chapter 43. Chapter 44, Do Wrong, Dewgong. We find Lorelei watching over the setup that Sun Hat and Bill made from on high and states how Pika will be hers at last. I'm getting real Team Rocket vibes here. Even after his escape from them when the Elite Four fought and caught Red. Sun Hat is all tuckered out and takes a nap while Bill gets shocked by Pika while trying to see if it's truly the same Pika that he is aware of, only for him to say, yeah, the similarities have increased. He also recounts what happened when the Seadra was caught, saying that the ball at the end of the fishing line seemed to kind of just move on its own, which makes it a little bit more clear that Sun Hat here is just kind of using, again, some sort of psychic energy, some type of magic. I'm just gonna call it now. Sun Hat here is an ESP. He reads minds, he heals Pokemon, he makes Pokeballs move around, he's got some psychic power mixed in with healing magic. He's a JRPG hero, and he just gets a little eepy after using his powers too much. Honestly, we might even be able to make this claim that Sun Hat is closer to Pokemon than humans, having abilities born of nature or his connection to nature, something along those lines. Allowing for Sun Hat to harness the power of infinite energy, the energy that we usually only see Pokemon use, but it could connect to Aura Guardians, Psychics, other special trainers in the world, you name it, and instead of speculating further, let's just continue and see if we find some of those answers. Bill continues making observations, saying it's just a regular Pokeball and a regular fishing line, just to make sure, you know, scientific study, make sure everything's normal, no tricks here, and then notices that this newly caught Seadra is completely healed up as if it had been to a Pokemon Center. And while he continues his contemplating, Lorelei calls out, kindly asking for Bill to surrender the Pikachu. Though like any other villain on a mission, she doesn't care about his response and whips out a Dewgong with full blast Aurora Beam. She's trying to murder a child based on what I see here. It has barely been 3 chapters and the people we thought were good, the Elite Four, are in fact flat out villains. The Pokemon Adventures manga is wild. I don't really know what I expected, but Sun Hat is just built different as he continues to happily dream through the freezing attack of the Aurora Beam, which is then followed up by a blizzard that finally wakes Sun Hat up, but only because he sneezed. Now, Bill catches him up on what's happening. Lorelei tells Bill about the special battle that took place and claims how a little Pokemon League tournament winner wouldn't stand a chance to a member of the Elite Four, in addition to Pika being the one to escape with their battle with Red. Her comment being, we have the perfect battle record to preserve. Not only do we crush all the trainers, we don't even let a single Pokemon escape. It's a matter of reputation, you understand. That's why I need you to give Pikachu to me. We should already not trust her words here, because why would Lorelei come after Pikachu? Wasn't it Bruno that defeated Red? We don't know how the fight played out, but it doesn't make sense for her to come after Pika. And I'm confident that we'll see more of the Elite Four chasing after Pika as well. There's got to be an ulterior motive at play, and it requires Pika for some reason. Now, Lorelei fully reveals herself as one of the Elite Four, even though you and I likely already know that, with her specialty of ice, and she releases sheets of ice to race after our heroes upon the back of her Dewgong. But Sunhat manages to silently command Doduo to throw a chunk of the ice at the antagonist. And in the moment that she is distracted defending herself and the shattered ice falls, our heroes have disappeared. They now sit in a cave. Sunhat confirms everything that Bill heard from her, and now he doesn't know if anyone can stand against the Elite Four and their power. Bill, in a miasma of fear, looks over to witness Sunhat hugging Pika and healing him completely again. Though even after questioning Sunhat, he still doesn't reveal his name, and instead says how he is just someone on a mission from Professor Oak to team up with Pikachu and find Red. You know, now that I think about it, in the first Pokemon movie, it is said in the original translations that Pokemon tears can heal. That's why Ash was unstoned when he died, essentially. So this makes me wonder if this has any relation to that, but kind of as an opposite or inverse to it. I'm not really sure how to make anything of that make sense, because we have a little bit of magic, psychic power going on. But Sunhat and Bill's moment is cut short by the sound of drilling, with Agatha watching from afar, claiming it's time for Lorelei's favorite attack. We watch a Cloyster's drill pierce through the top of the cave, and we jump in to the next chapter. But before we continue, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you are enjoying this so far, please make sure that you do subscribe, share the video with others. This was a huge endeavor to get through, and I've been incredibly excited about it. And if you'd like to support videos like this, or any of my ecology videos, or any other video I've honestly done with this channel, as I am the editor, I do all the research, I pretty much do everything except for the thumbnail for this video. You could thank that as a commission from Muse Art World, but outside of that, I do everything myself. And if you'd like to support the channel and help it a little bit further, please consider becoming a member of the channel or on Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Get those perks, and again, support the channel for as little as $3 a month. But with that then, I don't want to wait any longer. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and on with our story. Chapter 45, Cloystered. The exit is destroyed, trapping them as Lorelei makes the air in the cave colder. The place that was once a safe haven may very well become their coffin. And even if they did drill out, Sunhat knows that they'd be sitting ducks for the missiles outside. He figures that they should figure out the Pokemon, what the missiles are, and how they're being shot, because it's too powerful to be an ordinary spike cannon. Sunhat is able to send Pika's Pokeball outside on the fishing line to scout the area where it witnesses Cloyster and Dewgong performing a combined attack. This is the secret to the power behind those icy spike cannons. Sunhat finds this out as once again they are clearly psychically linked in some capacity to Pika, as he understands it immediately without Pika telling him what's going on outside. And he has to quickly act to bring Pika back as Lorelei notices his ball. Luckily, he gets Pika out completely unscathed. Sunhat uses more energy to fully read Pika's mind and says the ice missiles are made of Cloyster's spike cannon boosted by Dewgong's ice beam. And I now have to know, why do we not have more combo attacks in Pokemon? You could say it's coding all you want and how double battles aren't as common, but we have the pledge moves amongst many other double battle moves, so why not just make some extra fun, special interactions and really make it interesting? This is why I personally really love the manga, all of this extra thought and love that goes into it. But let's continue. Bill questions Sunhat once more on how he can do this, and all he does is state, "All I know is when I do this, I can faintly sense the feelings and thoughts of Pikachu and other Pokemon." In the next moment, a Pokeball is thrown out, tricking Lorelei into believing that Sunhat was pulling the same exact trick. Instead, it was just a clever diversion to ensure the escape of our heroes in the opposite direction. The Pokeball that was destroyed was completely empty. Remember this for the future. Sunhat and Bill ride upon Doduo and whip out Pikachu within the ball to attack Cloyster. It cloisters within its shell to defend itself, but a direct attack is a direct attack anyway. resulting in its horn being broken off and Pikachu being returned to their ball in their escape. Cloyster is too afraid to open its shell now, making one threat neutralized. Lorelei, frustrated, demands answers as to how Sunhat knew he needed to attack Cloyster when they were trapped inside the cave unable to see anything. But in Sunhat fashion, he doesn't respond and has Doduo carry them away, knowing that they don't stand a chance against the threat that is Lorelei, though Bill catches on to a hidden motive, that Sunhat is avoiding injuring everybody, including the opponent's Pokemon. He suspects that Sunhat knew Cloyster would avoid direct damage and wouldn't get seriously hurt by Pika's attack. Lorelei calls out once more, recognizing that Sunhat isn't running away like a coward, that he has something other trainers don't have. She demands his name, to which Sunhat responds, "Call me Amarillo. Amarillo del bosque verde." And I'm sorry, what? I knew that his name was Yellow all along, but he calls himself Yellow of the Green Forest, and to take that further, Veridian is a type of green, so we could technically call him Yellow of the Green or the Veridian Forest, but he's speaking Spanish, and this was not on my bingo card for Pokemon Adventures manga. I'm in love with it. It's a fun little detail. It's great. I'm excited. Cutting to Jigglypuff, though, floating in the air, we're informally reintroduced to its trainer, Green, stating that the reception is perfect. She sighs, though, as she hears what is going on. That idiot! My instructions were, do not give your name. Well, honesty's a virtue, I suppose. It probably wouldn't have stayed a secret for very long anyway. Amarillo del bosque verde, Yellow of the Veridian Forest. Again, snapping back to, can I just keep calling him Sunhat, by the way? It's a bit endearing at this point. Or how about this? You know what? I will settle for Amarillo. In addition, Green, though, now that we're going to continue with her story, is girl bossing again. But why is she staying so quiet and didn't even tell Oak about Amarillo? That's a bit strange. I do believe that this is the real Green, but she's up to something. I doubt she's doing anything nefarious like she used to, but she might be creating a bigger plot to gather everyone together. Alternatively, she might be taking on the mentor role to Amarillo in the event that he is similar to Green, a person that does not know their family or real home. After all, Amarillo is, now that I think about it, wearing what seems to be Spain-inspired clothing. And of course, the real-life color Green is made up of blue and yellow. So there's going to be some closer personal ties between Amarillo and two of our original pro tags likely going forward. And if it hasn't been clear so far, these were a lot of my original thoughts when I first read through the story. Now, Amarillo and Bill are chased by Lorelei and Dewgong, making their own little ice skating rink to chase. Slowly catching up, Dewgong curves an ice beam like a bullet ahead of Doduo, which then blocks the way, and with only one path left, they jump into the river. But of course, Dewgong, being a water-dwelling Pokemon, has the advantage. A wave of water throws our heroes into the air, and Cloyster returns, prepared to blast an Aurora Beam that freezes them all to the crest of the wave. Lorelei shows off how simple all of this is for her, with a supersonic that just takes it the extra unnecessary step to hurt all of our heroes as they cover their ears in pain. Lorelei approaches up the frozen wave, though Amarillo is already hatching a plan, using his ability to seemingly bring the ball closer to the frozen wave. You owe me an answer at least before you go. A drill of Cloyster's is now touching Amarillo's chin, and he sweats. You knew that Cloyster and Dewgong were together, but how? Could it be that you could somehow sense what Pikachu saw? Amarillo stays silent. Got it, didn't I? She continues to prod for more details. How powerful is your vision? Can you see what he immediately sees, or is it just his memories? She continues probing for more, When I first told you about the battle between Red and Bruno, you looked at me as if you were trying to figure me out. Can I assume then that you don't know much about that battle? That you couldn't see the memories of the battle in Pikachu's mind? No matter, and she is cut short. Everyone begins questioning a scraping sound that they all hear before the chunk of ice that our heroes are on breaks free and plummets, revealing that another Pokemon of Amarillo's, a Rattata, had used Hyper Fang to cut the ice. Lorelei prepares to attack but is stopped short by an inky strike from Green in the shadows, who slips away before it's too late, all while giving Amarillo and the gang all the time they need to escape. As they drift down the river, they finally feel safe. Amarillo reveals that Rattata was actually his first Pokemon and his first friend, nicknamed Ratty. Though as soon as Bill introduces himself, Amarillo passes out. A little EP time from too much energy used again. We return to Lorelei informing Agatha of the events of Amarillo the Bosque Verde, a trainer that can share the heart and read the thoughts of Pokemon. She believes that while Amarillo's powers are still weak, as it grows stronger, then one day he will be able to read Pikachu's thoughts completely. And this is a problem, as he will gain knowledge, important knowledge for that matter, about the Elite Four through the memories of Red's battle. And it would be far too dangerous to let that happen. From now on, Pikachu and Amarillo are both targets of the Elite Four. Now, Amarillo journeys eastward on the river in a boat of ice, away from the forest, away from the spot where Bill said goodbye, and further on. Our chapter concludes in Celadon City, with Lady Erica teaching a class about a specialized strain of Magikarp able to use the Dragon Rage attack, which I think is a reference to a mystery gift that was given out at some point. But either way, there's the study of it, and an offer is actually given to her to teach more at the academy from one of the other instructors, and she is told that she looks pale. She heads off, stating that she has not seen a friend in a while, and in private, she speaks to Misty, asking if there's been any new info, any new updates, anything regarding Red, but nothing has emerged. Chapter 46, Whacked by Marowak. Seemingly at the bottom of a chasm, we find the passed out Pokemon of Red. Rocks shatter as he dodges one attack, only to be struck by the flying kick of a Hitmonlee straight to the gut. Pika reacts, and that gives us confirmation that we are seeing what happened to Red, not what is currently happening, because Pika is there. He clutches himself, falls over a cliff, and Pika wakes up in a cold sweat. This wasn't just a dream. That is what happened to Red, or at least part of what happened to Red, meaning even Pika doesn't really know where Red is. Pika prepares to run off, but Amarillo calls out to him saying not to try and find Red alone, to instead sleep. They have an early morning tomorrow. They need their energy for the big journey ahead. At first, it seems like Pika is upset with Amarillo as he sends a bit of lightning his way, though this was instead to direct him to the people behind him. Lady Erica and her posse has arrived, or rather the warriors of Veridian Town, knights, whatever you really want to call them. They're good people. You are the one, aren't you? The one who passed through Pallet Town and took Pika with him. She notices Pika not being all that impressed with Amarillo currently, how she's come to place Pika under her care, for she is one of Red's closest friends. And while she understands the Elite Four intends to destroy Pika as their lead back to finding Red, Erica believes that the forces of Celadon should be enough to protect Pika from the Elite Four's plans. She is admittedly a bit mean, I have to say, as she claims Pika only stayed with Amarillo because of his scent being similar to Pika's, since they both are of the Veridian land. But beyond that, it is not a strong enough bond that would hold in the heat of battle. As she continues to, honestly, in my opinion, just kind of put Amarillo down, an individual delivers word of a sighting of someone fitting Red's description in the outskirts of Celadon City. This sends Amarillo and Pika bolting away to Erica's surprise, and as they make it to the outskirts, Red appears happily from the shadows, but he has no damage to him whatsoever, meaning something isn't right. This is also way too early in the story to bring Red back. Everybody is fooled as Pika jumps into Red's arms and Erica runs him, only for him to gut punch Erica. Just no hesitation, just bong. And as he falls to the ground, as she falls to the ground, the Red imposter grabs Pika by the ear. He attempts to shock Imposter Red, but they claim that they are well prepared for anything that Pika might do. And even with a massive shock, the imposter is completely unscathed thanks to a bodysuit of their own invention. One that blocks electric shocks, and it's chemically engineered to match Red's scent. That feels a little gross. Like, okay, whatever, dude. That's weird. I say it's gross because you can't just engineer a specific person's scent without having a sample of their scent at the absolute least. Sweat, whatever, you name it, right? And of course, it's not a member of the Elite Four doing this, but rather someone who yells out in triumph, "Today you face invincible scientific wizardry." I'm not gonna do that voice the whole time. "Though a foolish world insists upon calling me super nerd, the very fact that I anticipated your route surely demonstrates that my genius is not to be mocked." Okay, I'm falling back into the voice, I apologize, but here we are. He holds Erica hostage, keeping her soldiers at bay. His Marowak is revealed, using Bone Meringue to knock them away further. The nerd walks away, though Amarillo yells out, "You! Give me back my Pika!" The super nerd is frustrated at this. Your Pika? Until we return Pika to Red, I, Amarillo del Bosque Verde, am that Pokemon's trainer. I'm not gonna lie, this is feeling very Princess Bride at the moment, but I'm bought. A short cutaway reveals Pidgeotto delivering Oak's letter to Blue, who is dressed like Piccolo or Gohan, I guess. Straight up, he is wearing pauldrons and everything, standing at the top of a cliff, whatever. He's pulling a Piccolo. Anywho, the letter from Oak asks, oh, Blue, how are you doing? And how he's actually sorry for interrupting an important and all-consuming part of Blue's education. But despite that, Oak is afraid that he requires Blue's attention. Back to Super Nerd calling Amarillo a baby brain and releasing Persian in Paris. Alongside his Marowak, we begin Chapter 47, Purrrr-sian. Amarillo dodges Fury Swipes and Stun Spores. Nerd jumps onto Persian and makes a break for it, but Amarillo decides what must be done. Alright then, if he wants to attack at full force, his own Doduo and Rattata being released now makes Erica lose hope, as she expected Amarillo to have caught a few more Pokemon, something that could actually be useful in a battle. And he reveals that he did, but he let them all go because he isn't interested in completing a Pokédex. All he wants are true friends. In Amarillo's mad dash, he drops his sketchbook in which Erica, who is too injured to follow to chase along, you name it, opens up to find absolutely adorable sketches of Ratty, the Rattata, who was Amarillo's first friend, Ratty being very proud of their teeth, and then Dodi the Doduo, noted to have powerful kicks and carries Amarillo fast. Like, very childish drawings and notes, but it's adorable. The most recent entry, though, being Pika, my new friend helping me find Red. I hope Pika will want to be my... And it cuts off. But we can all inference the next word is simply friend. Dipping over to Amarillo in Central Celadon, Nerd hides in the shadows. A child and a diurnal Doduo, thinking they'll sight us in this minimal light. I think that is also the only note in all of Pokemon that I've ever seen that Doduo is diurnal, which is just a fancy scientific word saying that it's awake during the day and sleeps at night. If you want to know more Pokemon ecology, go check out my Pokemon ecology videos. But Super Nerd continues his monologue to himself like the weeb he is, eager to complete his job of delivering Pika to the mysterious old woman who told him about Red and offered a terribly generous payment for Pika's capture. Best of all, she only wants proof that you've been caught. Once she's had that, you'll be privileged to stay with me, where you as a Pokemon whose powers have been honed by a victory in the League games should prove to be perfect for my experiments, as well as the perfect tool to pay back the arrogant female professor who cost me my place in the university by calling me a dangerous maverick. He's such an incel. I can feel it. I can feel it from here. Now, Incel attacks Amarillo from the shadows with Boomerang, on which the second swing around, he tries to listen closely, but what sounds like nails scraping on a chalkboard distracts Amarillo from avoiding the impact that hits Dodie. This scratching is shown to be coming from the super nerd's Persian clawing at a wall in the vicinity. Yet another Boomerang flies, more chalkboard scratching from Persian, a combo turned into a triple threat with spores from Paris. Doduo is knocked out from the spores. Amarillo is struck by the Boomerang again and again, screaming that he has to save Pika, which is gonna be another common theme that I'm probably not gonna say every single time, but Amarillo continually puts, no matter how much he is being hit, how much injury he is sustaining, he always ends up putting the livelihood of other Pokemon first. Other people first. Back to Erica, coming to the conclusion that the only way that the nerd would have gotten Red's scent is by going to the location Red was last seen, making this nerd the next lead. Their new goal is to capture him and take his suit to someone who can analyze it. Someone who has once walked the dark path and found his way back to the light thanks to Red. Following the path blazed by Misty and Brock and myself. He is the fourth of the good gym leaders, and he is a scientist of the highest caliber. Send a message to Blaine! Yeah, get Blaine back in on this. He better still have Mewtwo with him, who I would actually love to see as a form of pacifist until absolutely necessary for combat. My reasoning for this is because Blaine and Mewtwo are meant to be a symbol for walking from monstrous origins away from that and towards compassion, towards understanding and humane lifestyles. Mewtwo was designed to be a weapon within the world of Pokemon, but Mewtwo is a foil to all that is science, a living being that is born of the folly of man and will hopefully be shown to walk alongside the world in peace, if not vehemently opposed to that folly. We now see Blaine studying the reciprocal relationship between Veridian Forest trainers and their Pokemon. Amongst other documents, he calls Rapidash to bring him nicely. Historical evidence of Pikachu inhabiting Veridian Forest is his next clue, which will bring him to do some serious field study. In other words, there are special bonds that are found between people and Pokemon born of the same unfettered homeland. A bond that, I assume, is suspected to have a strong effect on their relationship and potentially even their power. Mewtwo is seen resting with a small smile on its face. It slumbers away in a tank labeled "Do Not Disturb." He receives the call, or at least Blaine does, and we cut to the battle with Amarillo and the nerd once more. Pika tries to shock the nerd again, but his bodysuit is still in effect, and he reveals that the rest of his Pokemon have the same bodysuit. But why should you care about what happens to him? That little imbecile isn't even your trainer. Just look at that. A perfect little moment, once again, of human folly. A lesson we have been shown and will learn time and time again. Pokemon and humanity are meant to live as equals. There is no such thing as a singular trainer or owner. The bond of mutual respect is what brings about the greatest power and success of trainers and Pokemon. And to be fair, it is a lesson we can learn in real life for our relationships with other people. Chapter 48, Parasite. While Chad Amarillo is trying to keep his Pokemon and himself standing, worried about their well-being, the nerd is stroking his ego. Our Amarillo returns Dodie and Ratty to the Pokeball so that way neither of them will continue being hurt, allowing himself to be the center of the attacks. The Boomerang striking himself dead center. The nerd suspects that Amarillo must have even broken a few ribs from that impact. though as the Boomerang returns, riding upon it with string are the Pokeballs of Veridian Dodi. They explode from their containment as the Boomerang strikes the nerd. Pika escapes, and before he can even move, an Onix appears alongside Starmie, ridden by Misty, thanking Erica for the call. This nerd is surrounded by the gym leaders of justice. Even Blaine is there to carry the unconscious Amarillo. The nerd knew about Brock, Misty, and Erica, but is surprised by Blaine. I don't know about a fourth, and I know everything. This just isn't fair. Oh, but it's fair to hide in the shadows and try to destroy somebody smaller and younger than you? This means that everybody but Blaine has been in the news, or word has spread all over regarding their involvement in the conflict against Team Rocket. This checks out, as Blaine was not there to surround the city in which Silphco resided. He was busy trying to stop the finalization of Mewtwo and wasn't an ally of everybody just yet. The nerd tries one more sneak attack but is struck by a rapidly moving object. Blaine holds everyone back for safety, and we see a royally ticked off Pikachu, releasing massive amounts of electricity everywhere. For while the nerd is protected from electricity, Ratty's teeth have been biting chunks off of a building for Dodi to kick into the air, and these steel reinforced boulders are then drawn rapidly by electromagnetic force, drawn to the source specifically being the electrically charged air surrounding the nerd's body suit. He becomes absolutely pummeled by the debris, surrounded and imprisoned, too heavy to stand. He then falls. A beautiful little moment of fun science. Blaine suspects that Amarillo is a trusting soul, having communicated this attack plan just before he passed out. It all hinged on Pika, and Pika delivered. When given the option on who to join and find Red alongside, Pika even chooses Amarillo, something we can see as a parallel to when Red saved Pika from Onix. We now get Pika being trusted to save the day through Amarillo, who staked his life on that trust when Pika wasn't exactly looking to cooperate with him for a bit there. A new but similar bond has now been forged. The gym leaders gather around what Erica calls Amarillo's Pokédex, something that reveals how different he is from everyone, that his connection with Pika is different from Red's, different from what any of us know. Blaine breaks away to apologize to Misty, as this is the first time that they've properly met face to face. He takes responsibility for what happened to her Gyarados 2 years ago, how it was put under this torturous evolution, through this torturous procedure to draw out its power and made it rage, and how it all still haunts Blaine. He asks for her forgiveness, and Misty forgives readily. After all, Blaine's fighting on the side of justice from now on, and I am personally relieved that this is the immediate result. It's so long in the past, and Blaine has been proving himself while being trusted by Red, whom they all have faith in. Even if he's never said the words, his actions show that he is good, that he has turned a new leaf. So of course, quick forgiveness is expected from me, at least, as a reader. Blaine follows this forgiveness by releasing his Growlithe, who has an amazing nose, and sniffing the nerd, faces north? Blaine whips out his portable microscope, saying a bunch of mambo-jambo about the red scent chemical having traces of moonbeam, meaning it had to have contact with a moon rock, meaning that the clothing that the nerd found touched the rock that fell from the moon and has to be the one on Mount Moon. The second this realization is made, we see the silhouette of Agatha in a building out of sight, and the nerd is attacked by gaseous force, leading us to Chapter 49, as Gastly as before. Lifted into the air, gym leaders of justice conclude that the nerd will die if they don't help him. Ammonite and Graveler are released to aid Growlithe while Amarillo wakes up. He wants to assist to ensure their lead to Red isn't taken, but Misty assures that the trio have this in the bag. With a mega punch and a water gun to break away the miasma, they attempt to drag the nerd back down, but the miasma source is a Gastly, as they now know. Blaine tells Growlithe to Fire Blast in order to create a shift in the wind that will then blow Gastly away. But in too late of a moment, do they realize that a Caterpie is in the tree. Though the watchful eye of Amarillo swings the ball of Pika out, saving the Caterpie while the Gastly is still blown away from the indirect attack. Graveler breaks Nerd's fall, and the Justice Quartet. Wow, okay, hold on. If the actual Justice Quartet, Keldeo and all of them, somehow choose these 4 trainers, I'm calling it right here. All right, the gym leaders of Justice stand in awe of Amarillo's willingness to try and rescue Caterpie despite his current condition. The pain, the broken limbs, I don't really know. They don't really actually say anything about if Amarillo actually has a broken rib or not. I don't know. Either way, Blaine introduces himself then. Good job, Amarillo. Or can I call you Yellow to make it easier for me? That is not Blaine's voice, but no. No. Should just call him Amarillo. I'm gonna be a stickler about this, okay? But everyone gets introduced. They surmise that clearly whoever attacked the nerd doesn't want him to be questioned, and the body of the nerd rises again. Possessed by the Gastly this time instead of enveloped by the mist. Speaking of, the mist it releases is spreading too quickly. Everyone is helpless before Gastly itself is then blasted through the center of its body by the legendary trainer Blue. Because of course nobody is more to the point than Blue. He even tells everyone that they should make sure they attack the source of the power next time rather than blowing away the fog like they did earlier. This also means that Blue was watching everybody and maybe looking to see if there was anybody else, any of the more antagonists in the area. He's an intelligent individual after all. I will say it is a little weird right now to see Gastly with a physical-ish form with a hole blown through its sides. It's alive, it's not doing well. It kind of looks like a blueberry right now. It just popped right through the center. Blue does let the party know that Agatha is likely behind this attack. The ghost Pokemon wielding trainer of the Elite Four. How does Blue know? He's fought Agatha already. More specifically, this exact Gastly, as it had the same strategy now as it did back then. In fact, he had accidentally fought her at the abandoned power plant, though now he is sure this is Agatha's work again, when originally it was just an inkling or a hint in his mind. Now, he knows that she has a personal vendetta against Professor Oak, and Blue stopped keeping in touch with Oak electronically for security purposes because of the threat of the Elite Four. I do love this because think about what happened when Oak was kidnapped. They didn't know if Red and Blue were actually talking to Oak or if it was Sabrina's Alakazam when they were receiving emails, considering the Alakazam pretended to be Oak. This is a decision made out of experience under Blue's, life, not paranoia. Now, Blue gives a word of advice to Amarillo. Just remember, the Elite Four never show any mercy. It's good to protect Pokemon, but if you allow the enemy to get to you because of that extra kindness, you're finished. Misty moves to defend Amarillo, questioning if Blue is saying that Amarillo was wrong for protecting a Pokemon. I'm not judging anyone, but if it were Red, he'd have found some way to defeat the enemy completely while still saving the Caterpie. If you want to save him, that's the level of skill and strategy you'll need. His final advice is for Amarillo to train hard, though before Blue does take off, Amarillo stops him and tells Blue that he wants to train under him. Brock offers Amarillo his Graveler, Misty offers her Ammonite, and our two present primary colors take off on the back of Charizard. Caterpie watches from the brush nearby. This is another moment of perfection to me. A moment where we see the maturity of Amarillo. Let's take the example of Gohan from Dragon Ball Z, since I mentioned Blue looking like him, and if you've never watched Dragon Ball Z, don't worry, this will be quick and you will understand. In the peak of his character arc, after multiple seasons of being afraid, of being a pacifist, but being shown to be an incredibly strong, if not potentially stronger than our main character Goku, Gohan, his son, is someone who still refuses to let himself fight against a threat that will destroy the entire planet. This is not a bluff, this is not a joke. Their opponent, Perfect Cell, has the capability to destroy the entire planet, and will do so if anybody/everybody fails to defeat him. Yet, it isn't until the death of someone who Gohan saw as an innocent individual, an android actually, someone who he formed a close and personal bond with, did Gohan nearly explode. And I say only nearly because that individual still had to tell Gohan from this decapitated android head of himself to, in the words of Team 4-Star, grow up. Because you can be a pacifist, but if you have the power to change things and decide not to when you are needed most, you are not a pacifist. You are a coward. Someone who is then just a bystander, making you just as bad as the person who committed these evil deeds. And sure, you can stick to your guns and say, I'm a pacifist, I'm not gonna fight. And you'll have stuck to your ideals while everyone around you is now dead. And that's the speech that kind of happens there. This is essentially the turmoil that Yellow, or Amarillo, is going to have in our story. The story of a powerful pacifist having to decide, when should I act? When should I, with no other choice available to me, unfortunately hurt another individual? Otherwise, we will see Amarillo is going to choose peace time and time again, and it will be a beautiful and properly done sight. We end this specific chapter with Blue beginning the tale of the most formidable foe he has ever fought, telling it to Amarillo. Chapter 50, Lapras Lazily. 2 years ago, Blue encountered a Lapras in the wild, and during their battle, the Lapras was far more strategic than a wild Pokemon should be. It defended itself with specks of ice, laid out mist, and camouflaged itself so it could attempt a sneak attack. But through a well-timed Hydro Pump from Golduck, it launches Blue above and out of harm's way. This is followed up by an underwater Hyper Beam that takes advantage of an opening in Lapras' mist barrier and knocks out the Lapras for capture. And I'm not gonna lie, I really thought that this Lapras would have belonged to somebody, you know, maybe Lorelei for some reason, but nope, guess it was just a little mini red herring for our story here. Now, of course, right after being registered in the Pokédex, a child appears to claim the Lapras as his own. Though even Blue states he should not have been able to catch Lapras if it had an actual trainer, and the child complains further about how he'd been tracking the Lapras for weeks, trying to catch it every day, and nobody's gonna take it, but Blue ignores him and just, oh, that kind of trainer. Well, son, I'm afraid this Lapras is mine. The kid seems very desperate for the Lapras, a little strangely desperate, actually. I can't wait until I'm trained. Blue then decides to check in with Oak, who confirms the rumor that the child is telling him, that suspicious-looking shadows float in and out of the old power plant. His own haunter, the child's, disappeared into the power plant like it was sucked in, and he needs a really strong Pokemon to go save it. This is why he's so desperate for the Lapras, a Pokemon that is rare, and rarity is often associated with power, which, I mean, to be fair, the Lapras is pretty strong. Now, Blue briefly analyzes the strange situation, Haunter going to the power plant in which Zapdos used to reside. He thought he'd never go back there, but here we are. He administers some tough love from one trainer to another, refusing to just hand the child his Haunter on a silver platter. No, this is an opportunity to help this child grow as a trainer, as he likes to claim to be. I'm just going to keep an eye on you. Now let's get going. Blue runs ahead into the abandoned power plant, parts of it running, but not as a power plant. It's something else is going on here. They continue their walk through before the sudden appearance of Magneton and two Magnemite striking down upon the duo. Chapter 51, Electromagneton. The kid hides behind Blue, who scolds him for jumping at every little thing. How he needs to be ready for any wild encounter, in addition to not panicking when things seem to go wrong, as his Machamp is forced to the ground by the horde of Magnemites and Magneton in front of them, and their unusually powerful sonic booms. With the use of focus energy to concentrate their force at the enemy's weak spot, critical hit, whoop whoop, Machamp pours its attack into the singular spot in which it had caused a bolt to fall out earlier, sending the now cracked Magneton to the ground. Battle lost, and their leader no longer there, the remaining Magnemite run away, but Machamp has an injured leg. Blue is ready to leave despite the child's complaints, as those electric Pokemon that we just met were originally from this place, right? Since it's a power plant, that makes sense. That's about as natural as a Magikarp in a river. But the Haunter, you say, was pulled away by a mysterious shadow. Why a Haunter in a power plant? The kid is left stumped, unable to answer, and Blue trudges forward. I don't care whether you get your Pokemon back or not. I just want to figure out the reason behind this weirdness. Their forward march is then stopped short. And what, my lad, do you find so weird? A laugh resonates from the room. Gas fills the area. Blue's Pokédex even begins to malfunction. The signs of a haunting. We see the silhouettes of Agatha, who noticed the Pokédex, knowing it was from Oak, and goaded by her words, the child announces that this is Blue, and he is the grandson of Oak. And of course, Blue scolds him for that, because, yeah, you should not just be telling your enemy everything about yourself. This must be fate. I've been waiting so long to pay that man back, you see, and in walks in his grandson. When I first saw you come to meddle, I thought I'd just toy with you a bit and chase you out of here. But, well, plans do change. Agatha releases a Gengar to attack with Nightshade, but Golduck steps in to shield the duo with a wall of Hydro Pump as Blue exclaims for the kid to stay low. Unfortunately, a hypnosis from Gengar sends Blue into one of his old memories. One of when he was younger. And once again, I'm really feeling the Dragon Ball reference here with Kid Gohan now with what we're seeing. Outside of the dream, though, we see Blue encased in a coffin. Gengar's Dream Eater harvesting energy from Blue. The kid feels guilty for what has happened, and Agatha begins a little monologue that might give us insight to all of the Elite Four plans. Look around you. At a monument to human folly and selfishness. Perhaps humans and Pokemon are not meant to coexist. Once this power plant was intended as the center of a major industrial development. The project was abandoned halfway through, though, but in its wake, it left vast quantities of industrial waste. For the convenience of humans, countless Pokemon were driven from their homes. But to my cute gas Pokemon like Gastly and Gengar that were born out of chemical smog, this ruin was a great power source. This is a continuing of our theme from what is said about Pallet Town and the rest of the world. How Pallet is the last clean slate of Kanto currently, whereas everything else has been overrun by humans who dirty the waters and the air. But as another has said before me, life finds a way. And Pokemon, being creatures born from theoretically anything, are given life through what was originally these toxins that would kill any other form of life. And ghost Pokemon from all around come here just to be near this industrial smog. Chapter 52, Growing Out of Gengar. People may accuse me of many things, but stealing is not the fault of an Agatha of the Elite Four. She admonishes her work, laughing at Blue, having a pleasant dream in the black smog's coffin of death, said to be impossible to break through from inside. She tells Gengar to suck his energy dry with Dream Eater. Dipping into Blue's dreams, we find he is being forced to train without Pokemon by his master, an individual we don't really get to see more than a silhouette of. A Pokemon battle is one which trainers suffer no injury at all. Only the Pokemon truly battle. The trainers merely give orders. That is the reason trainers must train themselves. For only when the trainers have felt the attacks and sharpened their own strengths can their hearts and those of their Pokemon truly merge. Ah, yes, the bonds between humanity and Pokemon, the most powerful thing. Literally, I mean, we do have Ash Greninja and Mega Evolution after all, and they live on this concept, but those don't exist right now. Blue wakes from his dream, and through the telepathic use of Golduck, he gives orders to the kid through the screen of a Pokédex. He's told to run to the horde of Pokeballs behind Agatha, likely being every gas Pokemon she has collected. He is to release his own Haunter and strike the Gengar by surprise, which should loosen the hold of Dream Eater and save Blue. The child is scared, but Blue gives a pep talk, a talk that is mirrored with the talk he received from his own master. Look, kid, if you want to be a Pokemon trainer, you have to accept that there are times when a trainer himself has to have the courage to go into action. That Haunter you caught, it's probably waiting, expecting you to come rescue it. And that's why you're here, isn't it? As the kid builds courage, Agatha laughs, having noticed the trick with the Pokédex. But despite the addition of Golbat and Arbok being added to the mix, the kid finds his Haunter with the biggest, most adorable smile I have ever seen. But Haunter and Gengar clash for a moment, Agatha commanding her Gengar to erase the Haunter, but the distraction is just enough for the coffin to weaken. Blue releases Scyther, and ultimately they escape, falling down from the air above. But there's a problem. Scyther's physical attacks shouldn't be able to hit Gengar or any of the other ghost types, though as they fall, we hear more words of wisdom that were taught to Blue. Even if you're unable to slice through it now, Blue, remember this. When your mind and body mature, when your soul is able to grasp the essence of your enemy, then your Pokemon will be able to understand your will, and your Scyther will be able to slice through an enemy without form. And Blinding Speed Scyther slashes both Gengar and Gastly in half. Agatha smiles. You're Oak's grandson indeed. And with the mist of her Pokemon air swirling around her, she disappears completely. Despite this, Blue is satisfied, as this was the first time he was able to wield the sword of his Pokemon as if it were a part of him. And he thanks the kid. He releases Lapras, allowing it to fall under the hands of the kid before leaving, and Volume 4 is complete. What's most of interest to me right now is this theme that we're starting to see of understanding Pokemon as a whole now. Their relationships, whether they be your friend or foe, it should be understood that they do feel pain and their harm should be avoided. This is something we learn with Amarillo. Now with Blue, we have the concept of being able to grasp the essence of your enemy, to understand the entirety of your enemy, what they really are. Because most people believe that ghost Pokemon are literal ghosts when they aren't. They have physical bodies. They are made up of physical aspects of the world, hence why the Gastly line is said to be born of the chemicals of this factory. They are still born from physical matter, and by understanding that, you can overcome this assumption that you will never be able to hit it, and instead align yourself, your belief, and understanding of these Pokemon for what they really are. Living, breathing creatures that can be harmed. And this isn't just a manga thing, I've brought this up in other videos, but there are ghost Pokemon that have died. We see a Trevenant that dies in anime. We see a Mimikyu being Acerola's Mimikyu that has died. Beliefs, truths, ideals, wishes, they have all always held a special place within the world of Pokemon, though this is just a hint towards those greater topics that you may be familiar with thanks to games within the world of Pokemon. But let's see how this unravels in the next volume. Volume 5, Chapter 53, Can't Catch Caterpie, and I knew Caterpie would be coming back, and I'm already excited to see what we have here, because as Amarillo wakes up, I can now confirm without a single doubt in my mind that Blue's attire is a massive reference to Piccolo and Gohan. He's even standing in the wasteland with large rock structures. Beautiful homage to it, honestly. To our surprise, a boulder does come crashing down on Blue, but a moment before the flaming rock can strike him, Blue, with his eyes closed, unleashes Scyther, who proceeds to cut the rock into perfect cubes and keeps Blue safe. This is revealed to be part of training, with Blue's Charizard throwing rocks down at him, and despite Amarillo calling for Blue to teach him how to train in general, Blue just continues his training until Caterpie from Celadon City jumps on out. Amarillo's new task before higher level training is now to catch this Caterpie. As night falls, Blue poses that Amarillo could easily have caught the Caterpie and trained it into a Metapod by now, eventually evolving it into a Butterfree who could be a vital asset to their mission. I assume he would love to use it for powder attacks, paralysis, poison, sleep, all useful when dealing with a group of enemies. Though, when Amarillo does return, Blue is shocked to see the Caterpie without harm, as Amarillo states, "I don't think I'm cut out for capturing. I mean, you have to hurt it first, right? I just can't bring myself to do it. Please, somebody get this boy a capture styler and let him make friends with every single Pokemon." Actually, now that I think about it though, he'd probably see that as being wrong as well, as those capture stylers, he might consider them as being forcing a Pokemon to be friends, knowing his personality. Kind of a toss-up. It's revealed, though, that much to Blue's disappointment, Amarillo doesn't even know any of Rattata's attacks. Eventually, the Caterpie is caught, Amarillo and his team are catching their breath, and Blue is clearly frustrated. He asks how Amarillo even managed to catch Ratty and Dodie, and Amarillo, a little embarrassed, admits that there was someone there to tell him what to do to catch Ratty, and then Dodie was given to him by someone else. Which, may I remind you, there was a kid who Red helped in Volume 3. A little girl with a ponytail and even similar clothing to Amarillo. Basically identical in every single way. And this would explain why Pikachu is comfortable with Amarillo. Because Pika already met her, was partnered with her because of Red, and we already know that Red is trying to be the new gym leader of Veridian, meaning that there would have been plenty more interactions to make it all that much more personal. This is such a massive brain blast to my brain, and I'm happy to see all these little details, these little moments of foreshadowing be brought forward to the forefront of our story. This has made their connection that much more personal and explains everything as to why Amarillo is here to help. She can save the trainer that saved her and gave her Ratty, her first friend, all those years ago. Well, technically 2 years ago. Also, Amarillo is a girl and nobody else knows right now except for you and me. Back to our present story, Ratty starts vibrating like violently, which freaks out Amarillo. But Blue explains that Ratty's level is maxed out and they are evolving. And of course, Amarillo has no idea what evolving even is until Ratty evolves into Raticate. But something even stranger occurs because Amarillo has a moment of surprise that feels more than just her feeling emotion. It's likely related to her psychic link with Pokemon. With a Raticate in front of her, she just begins bawling her eyes out, just crying. Ratty is concerned, and Blue is absolutely frustrated until Amarillo just flat out passes out. Something he may not be aware of yet, but something we know is something that she does after using a lot of her abilities. So I wonder if the sheer evolution, the power that comes with evolution and the energy that's released and the emotions of a Pokemon during that, or even the events of it as a whole, may have affected her. We pick up the story on the next day with Amarillo apologizing. "I never knew Pokemon were supposed to evolve, so when all of a sudden Ratty started changing, well, And she continues to only dismiss saying everything, but claims that she won't let it bother her anymore. Meaning Amarillo likely even felt bad because she may have felt like she may have been hurting her Pokemon by stifling Ratty's growth. If not that, then that she has had Ratty exist or partake in too many battles. Blue explains that Amarillo can just cancel the evolution through the signal emitted by the Pokédex, but scolds her more for not knowing anything about Pokemon, how to capture them, and her treatment of the Pokédex as if it's just a toy, telling her that she needs to decide if she truly is a trainer or not. And I'm going to say it here and now. Amarillo is the perfect opposite to Blue. One is cold, calculated, and tough by nature. Amarillo is warm, emotional, forgiving, and trusting by nature, a pacifist. Then there's Red, who's kind of like right between the two, though Amarillo has also met Green, who was originally calculating, cunning, and underhanded, who, if we were to put her on our spectrum of personalities, she would be somewhere between Red and Blue as well, maybe leaning more towards Blue thanks to her survival instincts. What does any of this mean? I suspect that Amarillo is going to get pulled into her personality, as we are already seeing, to be more like Blue. This would be just like what we saw when Red and Blue's teams were switched with each other, and Blue's team learned to have more fun and be more flexible, while Red's team learned to be more cunning and effective in battle. Amarillo will learn how to decide when to battle for a greater cause, even if it means others have to get hurt in the process. Also, before we continue, I had to fix my microphone audio, the gain, so hopefully those 6 minutes didn't break your ears. They shouldn't, and I apologize. But before Amarillo can even answer Blue on whether she truly is a trainer or not, or wants to be one or not, we cut to Agatha on what is labeled Cerise Island, a place she claims to become creepier and creepier with every visit. She has a wheel that fused the legendary birds, a wheel with 7 badges, though she opens the center to a secret compartment for the 8th gym badge to be inserted. As she cackles to herself, Lance arrives to check on her. Unfortunately for them, Agatha is still searching for the 8th badge, and Lance takes flight to Vermilion. This chapter ends on the newly friended Caterpie being called Kitty. And it made me giggle so much when I first read it that I couldn't even look at this happy little Caterpie without giggling more. It's the equivalent of looking at a giraffe and saying, yo, what is up with that weird dog? Chapter 54, Pidgeotto Pick Me Up. Amarillo gives Pika the mission to watch over Kitty while she completes some errands. After all, she wants the two to become friends and wants Kitty to acclimate to the new life without being cooped up in a Pokeball. We get the hijinks of a classic Mindy and Buttons cartoon, with Pika saving Kitty from harm time and time again, trying to feed Kitty, who just hates the leaves that Pika gives it, and when Pika isn't looking, Kitty is swooped up by a Pidgeotto and 2 Pidgeys. A simple Thunder Shock saves the day, and it even brings about the luck of landing near some delicious flowers that, as it turns out, Amarillo was already coming back with, as they are a Caterpie's favorite food, the Vermilion flower. She sees Pika and Kitty peacefully sleeping away, with Kitty even having a flower on its head. This is our calm before our storm. We've had a lot of intense moments through our stories, and this gives us a breather before we hit some strong action, or some interesting and vital details that will carry further on. Chapter 55, The Prime Ape Directive. These fun titles, man. Just never go away. Please stay forever. A week passes since Amarillo began training under a somewhat reluctant Blue, her Pokemon destroying boulders, while Blue notes Amarillo's progress being far from the ultimate goal, but how her Pokemon's levels have increased significantly. In addition to how unfortunate that Amarillo hates the idea of evolving them. The question then is, will these Pokemon be able to win battles ahead of them in their current states without evolving? A secondary challenge does pose itself, as both Ammonite and Graveler almost run away, not listening very well to Amarillo, as they once belonged to gym leaders Brock and Misty, making them too high of a level for Amarillo's experience to properly command. Far away from here, we get to see more of Blaine's work, finding that the insulation the nerd had was the same as Team Rocket's insulation, which Red had their gloves when he stole it from them. This means that the nerd truly did find at least a shred of clothing from Red that gave him the scent and the insulation tech. While Blaine continues to analyze, he awaits Brock, who he is now counting on to find more at Mount Moon. An additional lead, if you would. Brock has a ring of Geodude around him as he walks, and to me, it seems as though he is completely alone, and these Geodude are serving as a 360 lookout in the event that a Pokemon or an attack from the Elite Four comes from any direction he may not be looking. Amarillo is busy learning everything from the Pokédex as per Blue's instruction, and learns that Red had an Eevee which she had never even known about. Though she doesn't state this about the Snorlax she reads about, meaning that either Eevee was set free or Red kept the Eevee a secret from most people due to its past experimentation under Team Rocket, or is just sitting in the boxes, I suppose. Blue, though, digging through the sand, confirms to himself that plant life was once in this wasteland, but is no longer. He says that there is the possibility that the industrial pollution from the factory region spread this far and hurt the land. He then feels the presence of another, turning to see that the duo are surrounded by a horde of Mankey. When they stalk like this, it usually means they're very hungry. There's an entire troop on their move, and their food supply has been dwindling at an alarming rate. At this point, they'll eat just about, and before Blue can finish, the mob of Mankey move in to attack. This now serves as an impromptu test, Amarillo being said to have a fighter's heart, but trying to take on this entire mob without any direction will lead to their defeat. So Blue appoints Amarillo to lure the pack leader Primeape away and let Blue handle the rest of the underlings. Blue sends Amarillo away, and in her dashing away on Dodie, Blue seems to transfer a Pokemon over to her, revealing in the moment before the Primeape can strike Amarillo, Blue's Porygon entering the fight. A Tri-Beam flattens the Primeape, which this is the first time that Blue had ever tried that properly. Its transfer between Pokédexes actually being a special property of Porygon. The pack leader defeated, the mob of Mankey are no longer organized by its commands, now run away, and unfortunately it is stated that that group will regroup in the future. This is, again, a parallel to the Magnemite Magneton situation that we saw earlier, and I'm going to tell you now, this is not something that is going to go away anytime soon. It also makes a lot of sense in terms of Pokemon hierarchy, even if hierarchy is not available or something that happens in all groups of animals or Pokemon in the world. Blue then begins to commend Amarillo for her work when he sees her healing the downed Primeape for the first time, actually witnessing her power. You had to find food for all of your pack, didn't you? Poor thing. Blue speaks to himself. Man lives by destroying. This wasteland is another reminder of that. But you, Yellow, you have the power to heal. There are a myriad of special talents among the many trainers, skill in controlling Pokemon and knowledge of attacks, but yours may be the one that surpasses them all. Pokemon as a franchise has always made claim into unity, balance of nature and man, cooperation between all, and the strengthening of positive bonds. Those that can manage to walk alongside the planet and its creatures are the ones who excel in the world of Pokemon, and Blue has now made this absolutely clear. Amarillo is one with the world of Pokemon itself, and believes that there is the chance that she can excel beyond everybody. Continuing forward, Amarillo has decided to leave Blue as she would like to learn more, but she doesn't want to become too dependent on him. She thanks him for his help in understanding the reality of battles. He points her to the nearby ship to head east, and Blue leaves with a smile on his face, sending Pidgeotto with another letter to Professor Oak. We get a wicked shot of a Hitmonlee who can extend elastic legs and arms, something that Lorelei gives credit to Bruno for in his training of said Pokemon, something that is very special. But we quickly return then to the SS Anne, Amarillo aboard it, as once again it serves as a carrier of good people's dreams. I love that. Considering that the SS Anne is a major trade ship that travels between Kanto and Johto, in addition to likely other regions within the world of Pokemon, to my understanding, this allows our trainers to travel the world, or at least begin their journey to new lands and expand their horizons. Aboard, Amarillo looks over the water with Pika on her sun hat. I gained a lot of confidence training with Blue. When I get to Vermilion City, maybe I will finally be bold enough to team up with him, with Red. Of course she idolizes Red. He is not only a champion, but someone who is genuinely kind as a person. They say to never meet your heroes, but sometimes there's just that one person that can be just as great, if not better than you imagine that they are. Red being that role model for Amarillo, which makes her want to live up to a standard where she would feel comfortable partnering with him, likely fearing being a burden of some kind otherwise. Chapter 56, The Coming of Slowpoke, eventually. Watching the championship match from 2 years ago, we find the Pokemon fan club director. Strangely enough, he's managed to teach his Spearow and Rapidash the usually exclusive move of Payday to them. This scheming old geezer is using this move to escape from poverty and afford a voyage on the SSN. I don't know what would have made him stuck in poverty, other than maybe he just spent all of his money on Pokemon or schemes or something along those lines. Our focus upon the ship again. A few shady figures move about before the entire ship seems to capsize in an instant, though that's kind of a over dramatization of it. So, well, it goes back and forth constantly throughout these panels, which is a little weird, but oh well. Clearly something that is no mistake, as Amarillo notes herself. She finds the engine room destroyed by a time bomb and a psychic attack. Her presence in the engine room being mistaken by the director as evidence that she was the perpetrator as he pelts her with Payday. The ship turns once more, saying the director flying into danger until Pika saves him and Omni the Omanyte is released to ice beam a hole where water is flooding in. Pika fills Amarillo in about other passengers in danger. The duo move to act when the director asks if it could be the very same Pika that belongs to his Pokemon fan club, because he sits down and is like, oh yes, the legendary Red was a part of our fan club. Of course, even though Red never actually was. He's a scheming old geezer. He's just that character. It's goofy. It is what it is. Amarillo tells him we'll have to talk later. We need to move to the deck. Safely off the ship, we get the reveal that Team Rocket has finally returned. Our surviving forces have been waiting all over the region for the chance to rise up again. These three individuals being leaders of the squadrons that Koga, Sabrina, and Lt.Surge commanded. Though those gym leaders and Giovanni don't seem to be in command currently. They aim to resurrect Team Rocket by beginning with a takeover of the SSN. Amarillo stands before the trio, releases her whole team, and the director doubts, looking at her team, that she could even win. Especially as Ekans, Weezing, Hypno, Slowpoke, Voltorb, and Electrode are all released simultaneously to squash Amarillo. And through those releases, you can see who was in charge of whose team, or who was under Sabrina, Koga, and Lt.Surge. Who is this stupid kid? I am Amarillo. They call me Yellow. And thus begins the next chapter. Chapter 57, Ekans the Ecstasy. Amarillo's team scatters. Doty's whirlwind discombobulating the enemy while everyone but Pika runs to assist the passengers upon the rocking boat. Unfortunately, a dose of confusion flips the ship vertical again, everyone barely holding on as our rocket trio is lifted into the air by Hypno. Honestly, the three of them look like they're pulling monkey poses in their safety, but it's just like a weird meditation thing that they're doing that I don't understand the cultural significance of, so maybe someone else does. Now, Kitty catches the director with a string shot as he falls. But more than that, there's so much thread around every passenger that is now in the water that it acts like a lifesaver for each of them. This is also beginning to remind me heavily of Oak and his fight against Green, how he had only used his Spearow and all of his wit to win against what would seem like a stronger opponent. Although he was also fighting unfairly because Green is afraid of birds, whatever. While the Rockets and Hypno are distracted, Omni's Ice Beam freezes their legs solid. Jumping at the enemy in frustration, Sabrina's underling commands Hypno to attack, thus causing them to fall as Hypno is no longer concentrating on keeping everyone levitated in the air. All then fall to the water below in a sploosh. Amarillo confidently offers the opportunity for the Rockets to give up, but nothing ever goes so easily when Ekans and Weezing are commanded to attack. They're acid and sludge, striking where Amarillo, Doty, and Pika were. Just before they fall any further in their escape, our multi-armed Graveler friend catches all three of them while still holding the railing of the ship. One arm each. Power in that boulder, baby. Now, following this, Pika thundershocks the Ekans and Weezing, striking them out of the battle. But we are still not done yet, because our girl Amarillo has the biggest brain in Pokemon. for Eradicate bits through the entire freaking ship, which stops inches before crashing onto the rockets thanks to Graveler pulling a Spider-Man and easily holding it together. Now, this makes perfect sense because what did we see that it could do as a Rattata? It was able to bite through a sheet of rock. Sorry, not rock, it was ice. Earlier on, when Lorelei was coming after Amarillo and the gang. Now it's just biting through entire ships, and I mean, Raticate, I think, can bite through concrete anyway. It could probably bite through a lot more than just concrete. Will you give up yet, or do I tell Gravy to let go? The trio, of course, given that threat of death from the sweetest cupcake in Pokemon, surrender. With everyone safe, the Rockets are rounded up. Our director gives a goofy final blow with Payday, which was just an excuse for him to get more money, the greedy monster that he is. Amarillo informs him of the situation with Red and her own frustration of waiting for their next lead. The director recounts the legend that surrounds Vermilion Harbor, a legend of grass, water, fire, and thunder stone. How normally they disappear after use, but that's somewhere. There are 4 very special stones that do not lose their power even after enabling a Pokemon to evolve. Many people have wanted them for a long time, and according to a local legend, those very 4 stones lie at the bottom of Vermilion Harbor. Chapter 58, The Kindest Tentacruel. Those stones are very interesting, I have to admit, considering they seem to be growing from the ground like some sort of rock plant. I will attest to the idea that this could be seen as something that forms from the natural energy of the planet itself, similar to Origin Energy, but that wasn't even a thought during the time that this was created, so this is just speculation. The director brings all of this up, or at least these stones up, because he knew of the story of Red's Poliwhirl suddenly evolving into a Poliwrath in this area, potentially meaning that it came into contact with one of these 4 Eternal Evolution stones, as I'm going to continue calling them. Amarillo bolts, ignoring the offer of money from the director, who wants him to take her with her. She is prepared to uncover the secret of evolution. But while fishing, the party is sat nervously with a mass of Tentacruel around them. She wonders if these are guardians of the stones, as the director warned, and hopes that Omni, who is on the fishing pole in its Pokeball, is gonna be okay. That fishing pole gets some really good mileage. Now, deep down, we see what I am calling the most terrifying shot of a Tentacruel we will likely ever see. Omni is terrified. I would be too looking at this thing, and Amarillo yells for Caterpie to extend the fishing line with its thread. The Tentacruel boss wraps itself around Omni's ball, but before he fully constricts, Omni is pulled out from the water. This massive Tentacruel, which really shows once more that the Pokemon we know are not even close to their true size, bursts from the water to chase Omni and begins to wrap its many tentacles around our heroes. Though something tells me that this Tentacruel may be acting out of parental instinct, potentially seeing Omni as one of its own babies, a familiar species, or something along those lines. This doesn't seem, it seems aggressive, but not lethal. And would you look at that, I was close, but not quite there, because a baby Tentacruel is seen to be trapped under a boulder. Our Tentacruel bringing our friends down to help free it. The current problem, though, while Graveler is strong, it hates being underwater and won't last long. The same can be said about Amarillo and her lungs. The Tentacruel is freed, but Amarillo is under incredible pain from lack of oxygen, and while she puts her focus on trying to return Gravy to its ball, she is saved. More than that, she now sits on a small chunk of land, the Eternal Leaf Stone glinting before her, the only stone available. Meaning even the Water Stone is missing, potentially meaning that they might not be Eternal Stones. But she smiles with Pika under the legendary Vermilion Underwater Dome, a sight I honestly wish I could see, as natural water just cascades above them with Tentacruel floating past. And I know you could go to, certain water places, aquatic worlds, and see something like that by going through a tunnel, but that's not the same. I want magic, okay? So that's basically what I'm saying. Now, personally speaking, Amarillo may be onto something. I kind of doubt that Red took them, but Team Rocket may have, in order to continually cause Eevee to evolve with their device. The Leaf Stone would have been useless at the time and would not work on an Eevee anyway. Though this could go a million different ways, and maybe Red did take them. We already got hints to Eevee earlier, so it would make sense. Now, while lost in thought, Amarillo doesn't notice the director diving down in his greed now that she is back on shore and explaining what she knows to him. Of course, he meets the Tentacruel, who notices his greed and blasts him away. Far away from this situation, away from Amarillo, floating above mountains by Lego Jigglypuff is Green. Well, Yellow's matured quite a bit since the battle with Lorelei, but will it be enough? When the Elite Four begin to get serious, that happy-go-lucky attitude may become a liability. I personally hold hope that Amarillo stands strong, and even in the final fight, she finds a way to stand by her own resolve. Even in the face of a grave danger, I'm sure Amarillo will stand tall for what is right and return back for her happiness, or return back to her happiness, to find a peaceful resolution. Chapter 59, Hitmonlee, baby, one more time. A Britney Spears reference, and my Pokemon more likely than you think, although we might want to call her Britney Spear-Row while we're at it. Moving on. Following Green, she of course is ready to make a scene on grand entry with her stylish self. Arriving at Bill's cottage, she breaks in with the use of Ditto as a key and heads for Bill's Pokemon storage system. Her goal is to attain the Pokemon Redhead, or at least something along those lines, but Bill wakes up and sends his Vulpix after her, only for Green to be on the ball with a ground-shaking Blastoise. Bill, defeated and tied up and very angry, Green explains that he is likely going to be the next target of the Elite Four, especially as they don't like having loose ends. And I came here personally just to tell you that. Aren't I an angel? The least you could do is let me peek at your database. Bill questions her, and of course, she explains that she bugged Amarillo's hat without them knowing. She was even the one who sent Amarillo on this quest, told them not to reveal their name, and explain how the Elite Four are also her enemies. I'm amazed, personally, that Bill knows nothing about Green, actually. Or rather, he knows nothing about her relation or teamwork with Red and Blue. Despite all the possible fame and glory, she has somehow managed to stay under the radar. I guess that kind of shows that the championship doesn't spread out that much, but it does all the same. Red's goal was to further increase his Pokemon's levels by accepting challenges from other trainers. Blue's was to hone his skills as a wandering fighter to prepare for another match with Red, while mine, quite simply, was to find the person who controlled that bird. That bird that snatched me from my true home when I was just a child. And once again, we get a glimpse of the shadow of the legendary bird, Ho-Oh. Green suspects that the Elite Four controlled the bird that took her away. Her plan has been to use Amarillo for battle data, and she's willing to protect Billy here as long as he shows Green personal data in the Pokemon transport system. Bill continues to deny her, even as Green suggests checking Red's storage, because if he is alive, he may have taken a Pokemon out to replace Pika momentarily. Bill, worried, I could be kicked out of the Pokemon Council for breaking the law. Green puts on her puppy doll eyes and pleads, for peace in all the region, we need Red now. Bill obliges, and when they look into the boxes, Eevee has been taken from the storage. And with our knowledge, dear viewer, this very well may mean that Red truly was the one to get those Eternal Stones. Before Bill can see what Poke Center Red was at when he retrieved Eevee from the boxes, Hitmonlee comes crashing in. With Blastoise's jetpack, the duo makes a break for the runaway Hitmonlee while they check Amarillo's location, Vermilion City, and she hasn't moved in a while. When first reading this, funny enough, probably over dramatic in doing so, I audibly gasped. For this is where Lance mentioned he was headed many chapters ago. And I love Amarillo as a character so much that I could only hope she comes out of this without too many scars. Honestly speaking, I believe I've always had I'm going to call it a weakness for lack of a better word, for characters that are the keepers of peace, the ones that want to be peaceful, the ones that want to be pacifists, the ones that maybe are a little bit more introverted, and that's probably because I'm an extrovert by nature. And Amarillo, among many other characters just throughout Pokemon and other series as a whole, fit that description with strong, happy, cheery personalities and a lot of potential behind them to show that they are not cowards. They choose to make the hard decisions time and time again. Because I truly believe at this point, and we could have seen it happen, is Amarillo definitely has the power in some capacity, if she didn't hold herself back, to wipe the floor with a number of individuals that she has encountered. But she does her best to keep everybody out of harm. And that is an immensely noble trait. Chapter 60, Breath of the Dragonair, Part 1. And when the multi-parter chapters hit, you know we're in for some major trouble. Amarillo sits at the Vermilion Harbor with her team out under the night sky. Without the SS and without a water Pokemon capable of surfing, she struggles to find anything other than Tentacool, and for the first time in her life, she admits that she has trouble sleeping and decides to practice attacks with Pika. Thunderbolt, Flash, Thunder Wave, Substitute, and with half of Pika's health gone, a large wave comes crashing in, destroying the Pika double, and my anxiety as a reader rises beyond double. The wave carried a surfer who Amarillo suspects now has a broken leg. Kitty casts it in Silk, and they formally meet this surfer and his Slowpoke, who was practicing for contests all over the region. The wave caught him off guard, and now he can't qualify for the next rounds. The winner of the competition is set to get a Dragonair, perfect for a long-distance ocean crossing. How lucky is that? The swimmer lends his Slowpoke to Amarillo, and as dawn approaches, we return to the chase for Hitmonlee. With one final minute left for Blastoise's power and enough light to fight by, they close in for Hitmonlee in one final blast forward. Unbeknownst to our duo here, the Hitmonlee can extend its arms, allowing it to set up a horizontal trampoline with its body and launch Blastoise away, leaving the duo behind. Instead of taking them, Hitmonlee takes its beef up with Blastoise atop a cliff. But I don't trust this. Even Green notices something is wrong. The Hitmonlee is in a fighting stance, but is looking for Green and Bill. Green sweats. They're here. Hitmonlee's trainers. It wouldn't do that unless its trainer was nearby. If I start shouting commands to Blastoise now, they'll know just where I am. Our best bet is to keep nice and quiet. Our Green works her wrinkly brain again and sends a command in a bubble-making device to her Blastoise awaiting the command. Before we see the result, we're back at the surfing competition and Amarillo is riding upon the borrowed Slowpoke. Dragonair is shown to be as majestic as it is massive, a Pokemon that any surfer would weep for the chance to own. But as the Dragonair begins showing its capabilities, the waters turn to whirlpools, and atop the Dragonair is now Lance. This Pokemon secretly being his, and what I suspect to have been the red herring Amarillo fell for. A deliberate plot of the SS Sand being destroyed, of not having the ability to surf, and being lured here. After all, Lance should be aware of Amarillo. Intimidating, he stands upon the Dragonair in the turbulent waters they cast upon Vermilion. Contestants sucked down. The announcer stares out to the waters asking who this is when we hear the simple words of Lance. That's my business. And his Dragonair releases a Hyper Beam that results in an explosion upon Vermilion City. I won't take long, as this is an intense moment, but while I knew Lance was going to be destroying the city, I never thought he was so cold in his destruction. It's actually amazing yet terrifying to now imagine this champion that we fight alongside in the games and see as a great person to be so cruel to innocent people in this moment. Chapter 61, Breath of the Dragonair, Part 2. Lance smirks at a crater larger than buildings in Vermilion, a space that is likely at least half of the entire city. Lives have absolutely been lost. Lance doesn't even bat an eye as he calls out, but when nobody responds, he suspects that the individual has already moved on. And he leaves, as if all he did was check inside of a closet to see if somebody was hiding during a game of hide and seek. He does not care. Amarillo attempts to return the Slowpoke. The swimmer speaks like Yoda for some reason for a moment and says she doesn't have a surfing Pokemon and shouldn't try to fight this destructive person. But Amarillo takes it upon herself as her duty, because if Lance was looking for her, it's her responsibility. And our predicaments continue with a return to Blastoise. Its water being all dried up, the bubble is noticed and even popped by the Hitmonlee before it can arrive, who then wraps Blastoise up. But this is what Green wanted to some capacity, with Blastoise now releasing a forest of bubbles to hide the command bubbles from here on in with a bubble attack. I love when those weak moves are used so tactically. The real bubble arrives, and with the command, the cannon of Blastoise slams down onto the head of Hitmonlee and sends it careening over the cliff's edge. Green suspects this was actually all just a decoy, and now they need to head for Amarillo as fast as possible. That the Elite Four know she's helping, and that Amarillo is in trouble. Back to her, speeding across the coast to keep up with Lance. Dody's legs are used as a springboard once they're close enough, sending Pika across the water with String of the Kitty to Lance. Oh, I get it now. Cats play with string, and Caterpie Kitty creates a lot of string. I get it now. Anywho, back to the action. Pika lands on Dragonair, climbing up to Lance only for him to ride over to Amarillo calmly and throw down Pika to her, questioning why she followed him. Why did you destroy the city? I was looking for something and the buildings were blocking my view. Pity it was a wasted effort. Just for that, countless people and Pokemon? They didn't die. The surfing contest is quite the event for Vermilion City. The city should have been empty. Well, a trainer or two might have bit the dust, but... and of course, since you followed me, you'll get hurt too. Dragonair lashes out and captures Amarillo in a bind. I knew Team Rocket used Pokemon for evil, but I've never heard of anything like this. Evil? Well, is that what I was doing? Well, I had no idea. But look at it from a Pokemon's perspective. Would you want to be kept as a pet in some suffocating little city like that? Human good and Pokemon good are diametrically opposed. All humans on Earth, except for elite trainers, must be destroyed. This is the mission of Lance of the Elite Four. Dragonair continues to crush Amarillo, who screams in pain, but instead of outright murder, he takes them to the skies. Of course, Dragonair can skim the skies just like the seas, and it is my gift to control the power of the dragons. Breath of the Dragonair Part 3. A storm roils under Dragonair's command, thunder and lightning erupting. Lance in his human folly cries out. The Elite Four and our allied trainers are all the humans the world needs. Pika jumps to attack, but a multi-directional, constantly changing Hyper Beam from Dragonair flies around Pika, then crashes into him. Lance claims to have held back so Pika won't die, but he floats in the water looking fairly unconscious. In that moment, it clicks. That scar! So that's it! The Pikachu with a scar on one ear! So you were the ones Lorelei and Agatha were after. Lorelei is such a perfectionist, she couldn't live with the knowledge that this Pikachu had escaped her. And then you two did the same to poor Agatha. You're the one called Yellow Caballero. While Lance doesn't care, he knows that they'll be happy if he delivers Pika to them. He swims away, and while Pika is stuck, Amarillo tries getting Pika to escape with Substitute, or even attack with it to escape in general. And in his coldness, Lance frustratedly questions, I told you I was holding back, didn't I? Almost as though he's now claiming he will kill Pika this time. Dragonair uses Dragon Rage, the power crashing into Pika, its clone, and Amarillo simultaneously. They fall into the water, but the water around the clone is parted. Amarillo may be able to use that empty space as a tool. Little did I know, and much to Lance's surprise, we get to witness a ballin' moment of Amarillo skidding on the surface of the water as she rises from the depths aboard a surfboard manned by Pika. our surfing Pikachu. His projected substitute power creating a water-repelling surfboard. With a shattering thunderbolt, they surf away from the explosion like action heroes. Lance is now nowhere to be seen. Amarillo asks Pika about the idea of trainers who love their Pokemon so much that they believe destroying mankind is the best for Pokemon if Pokemon would truly have better lives. Pika is concerned, and we are reminded in memory of words that Red had said in advice to Amarillo on that day so long ago. A final nail of confirmation to show who Amarillo is. But if you care for them with a kind and gentle heart, then they'll always be your friends. With those words, the two of them perk up and begin their surfing to the city at the other end of the sea. Little do they know, Lance never left, for we see bubbles rise to the surface of the water behind them, likely being where Lance has been sitting to spy on them. We see Blue's letter arrive back to Oak, explaining that Green is behind Amarillo's mission, how she should be currently traveling by sea to continue communication through Pidgeotto, and that the Elite Four HQ has been pinpointed on Cerise Island, and Blue is headed there now. As we move into our next chapter, 63, Extricated from Exeggutor, Pika launches with a surf from land to save an exhausted Farfetch'd falling from the sky, showing that they made it to this next island. In fact, it turns out this Farfetch'd has an injured wing that Amarillo then heals. She's notified that the force attacked the Farfetch'd, a force that changes every time it flies through. We can see every tree is another Exeggutor. But Amarillo doesn't know this yet. The beauty of this is that they are based on walking palms in real life, a tree that doesn't walk, but since these do, they can perform together as an entire walking, ever-changing environment. And despite Amarillo setting a line from Caterpie and proceeding to walk in a straight line, they run right back into that line, even being completely surrounded by it, as if they've been going in circles. But you and I know the real story at hand. Coconuts fly and Dodie moves to get our friends out of dodge. Now standing on high ground, they see the entire forest was nothing but Exeggutor and Oddish, oddly enough. She calls Oak, who notes this must be a catastrophe if she's calling. Some wild Pokemon are very sensitive to the approach of natural disasters, earthquakes, tornadoes, and even an unnatural event of comparable power. And Oak speaks the truth for more than just the world of Pokemon, my dear listener. For now, we watch waves crash upon the spiked lands of Cerise Island, deep within the caves of Lorelei, Agatha, and Lance, their Pokemon becoming restless as Lance is preparing to make a move. We'll meet again soon, Yellow. Your life will be your own, but only until that day. Lance with a smile. His team is revealed. Dragonair, Aerodactyl, a second Dragonair, Gyarados, and Dragonite. They are the storm that is approaching. Amarillo speaks with the Farfetch'd, finding out what used to be a forest of Pokemon is now completely bare. This Farfetch'd having lost the forest that used to house its nest. They quickly do find its nest, and that is thanks to Amarillo, but this is overall just another folly of man and their destruction through industrialism. Amarillo wonders what disaster is about to take place. Another cut to Oak, we're shown another lady to actually be the granddaughter of him, who is currently assisting him. A document of information laid before them about Yellow is visibly seen, and they continue to call Yellow a he, all while Oak states he's starting to want to believe in this kid as well. Chapter 64, putting it on the line against Arcanine. Yellow makes it to the next island and meets who is now a junior trainer, the one that Blue had met 2 years ago, as they bear the same look and hunter as back then. Amarillo stands upon Cinnabar. She follows Junior as he is helping someone train, that person being an older, balding man that says to give it all he's got. And when that stone is cast, the silhouette of Mewtwo with that big old spoon arrives to smack that rock away. It goes further with a combo attack of stones and fire from the addition of Arcanine. But as this old man continues to move, the afterimage of Mewtwo moves with him to smack them all away. Now, I can't tell if this is truly Mewtwo acting from within the lab, and this really is an after image set to protect this man, or if Mewtwo is simply this fast. The man seems familiar, but it isn't until we follow him back to his lab that the wig is removed, a fake mustache is placed under his nose, and glasses are placed on his face that we realize that it is Blaine, whose mustache burns from a training accident that had occurred. The timing is impeccable for their meetup. Brock sends a message that Red has been spotted but isn't at Mount Moon anymore. He had explored deep into a pit with his monkey chain of Geodude to find what was an ice shell of Red, as though he had broken free from it like a cocoon. Chapter 65, Karate Machop. Pika and Amarillo are screaming. Blaine tells them to calm down, and Brock actually says the same thing that I did, funnily enough, about the whole cocoon. There's no way he escaped on his own, though, so they suspect he was helped by someone. Their transmission cut in on by Misty signaling that Pewter City is being attacked by an army of Pokemon. But more than that, Cerulean and Celadon are as well. All cities that are home bases of our gym leaders of justice. This, I suspect, is a trap. A member of the Elite Four in each place, or at least those elite trainers under their command. This may have been why Agatha was amassing so many Pokemon those many chapters ago. Machop are destroying Pewter. Haunter and Gengar are destroying Cerulean as they surround Misty. Shelter and Cloyster striking against Celadon, a confirmation of my suspicions, as those typings align with the Elite Four. With 3/4 of the city fallen to the Ice Army, Lady Erica, fit in her ballin' archery attire, states for everyone to keep their heads and avoid injury to the enemy's Pokemon. Tranquilize them instead. Erica, under sudden attack, comes to the same conclusion I did, that this is the Elite Four striking against the cities. Communications between everyone is officially blown, and Blaine sees this as not a disaster, but the perfect opportunity. He suspects that the Elite Four are trying to get Blaine to assist in the cities, but instead, he can join Amarillo to attack at the Elite Four HQ. As they all agree, Blaine's hand, the same one that had Mewtwo's cells, seems to twitch in severe pain. Maybe I wasn't far off. Maybe Blaine has some powers of Mewtwo as the cells have ceased their destruction on his body. Maybe. Though his body isn't meant to take the power of Mewtwo upon itself, and this is an aftershock, similar to a muscle that is sore after working out. Though, Blaine continues and tells Amarillo to head out first, to take a different route than he will, and she sets off. Blaine stays to speak to another off-screen, someone I am very excited for. Don't worry, there's no way I won't take you along. This is what all the training was for, after all. Blaine releases Mewtwo's Master Ball. It's time for us to go, brother! Yes! Dear God, I am so bought in right now, and we're just nearing the end of Volume 2. There's 2 whole volumes left. Another look, though, before we're done here with this volume, is we get another look at Cerise Island, and I'm getting a little bit nervous. It looks a bit like the shell of a Lapras, and we may have a giant Lapras sitting here. Again, more just speculation. But both Blaine and Blue arrive simultaneously, surprised to find each other. But a greater surprise finds them, with not the Elite Four awaiting them, but an Electabuzz, Muck, and Alakazam, as the OG baddie gym leaders have returned. Lt.Surge, Koga, and Sabrina. I have nothing else to add right now. I've been making analysis points throughout the entire time, and I'm hyped for the next volume. Let's just move right along. Chapter 66, Punching Poliwrath. Oak's daughter is assisting medically with a Wigglytuff before she barges in to check on a screaming Oak, who learns the news of the cities being destroyed. He has no communications with our gym leaders, and there are too many Gengar for Misty to keep down. We find out that the bodies of the 3 evil gym leaders couldn't even be found in the collapse of Silphco, and Sabrina states that they should save the details for later, for their new guests are coming. And we see a shot of Lorelei, Agatha, and Lance. Bruno is still out searching for Red. We finally get to see Bruno's memory of Red, and it brought a tear to my eye to see that lovely goofball announce himself with full gusto, all before the land he stands on moves and he jumps to safety as he found out he was standing upon one of Bruno's Onix. He claims he doesn't like surprise attacks and declares a proper challenge as he announces himself to Red. Bruno launches his nunchuck ball with no further explanation. Pika shocks the Hitmonlee, all while Bruno commends his astonishing skills. Now the battle continues on, the Hitmonlee bending in ways that cannot be tracked as it swings around to knee Pika down. Red smiles despite this, as he was so bored with all the challenges over the past 2 years. This now being his first real challenge, the first time he has felt alive since his last battle with Blue at the championship. Red analyzes Bruno, his nunchucks allowing the release of Pokemon further than the normal 6 feet away that a trainer normally has, and in any direction, giving him an incredible advantage. Hitmonchan launches free only to be double slapped by Poliwrath repeatedly until one catch of the fists reveals that the right hook was Fire Punch and the left jab was a disastrous Thunder Punch. Now their Gyarados and Onix twist high into the sky. Bruno admits his own excitement that matches Red's. For me, battle is everything. I've searched long for an opponent of your caliber. This is a fight between men. I'm calling it now. Bruno is gonna cross the Elite Four at the given opportunity, but watching from afar are Agatha and Lorelei. A flashback shows how Lorelei's Pokemon were suffering from industrial waste pollution when they first met, and Agatha's Gastly drinking up the pollution from her seal like a delicacy. I don't know what sort of factory they're building, but humans can do some awful things. You feel hatred for those who poison the habitat of your Pokemon, don't you? You despise them? Then why don't you become my cohort? Lorelei smiles, reminiscing about those words that Agatha said to her on that day that they met, as she gazes upon the excitement of Red and Bruno in their battle. Through this, we see once more that while their actions in the present day may not be the best, these members of the Elite Four may have had noble intentions and strong hearts, and still do. The problem is what they have done and what they are doing to change the world. Chapter 67, Can You Diglett? More references, yes, thank you. The fight rages on, Onix too fast hit with a Hydro Pump, but after a bite from Gyarados, Onix disappears, and Red prepares for them to reappear from anywhere. He contains Gyarados for a short rest, and now with Venusaur, sets vines in a trap all around the terrain, the success of which now resulting in a tug of war before the tail of the Onix erupts from Red's unguarded backside and fells them to caves below with multiple branching paths. But before the bullet train of Onix can slam into Red, Bruno calls a timeout until a friendly passing of Diglett finishes crossing them. He smiles, and I once again find myself loving the Elite Four while chastising their destructive decisions. Bruno openly teaches Red in this break that he called. Diglett thrive in the tunnels dug by Onix, and there in time become Dugtrio, who cultivate the soil, enabling greenery to grow. The Pokemon teach us a great deal about the interconnectedness of life. You would do well to heed the lesson, young man. And I am feeling so conflicted. If you're new to the channel, I love ecology, nature, you name it. And I've completed a number of videos on Pokemon ecology, so this is singing to my soul. But I guess we don't really know what Bruno has directly done, just that he fought Red. Whereas Agatha and Lorelei have directly done harm to other people. And I guess this may be our moment to find out what happened, as they continue their match with smiles, but something happens to Bruno, who then collapses. Lorelei and Agatha, now here, Red unaware of who they even are, they laugh at Bruno's circle of life, countering with humanity's inability to listen and stop destroying Pokemon habitats, the inability to coexist, which will result in the loss of Onix, which will cause Diglett and Dugtrio to pass, then the plants, the trees, everything. Red is shaken. What's your point? Just this, that maybe it's too hard for humans and Pokemon to exist, to coexist. Just a handful of skilled trainers who lived for Pokemon, and the rest of the human race gone. That would be a Pokemon paradise. Agatha reveals the badge device, making Red's heart skip a beat. A device that Agatha claims will make that paradise a reality. They intend to force Red to tell where Giovanni is, all so they can complete the device with the final badge. Red decides he needs to leave, but he's concerned about Bruno and his escape as he's at a disadvantage in this confined space against 2 enemies. Chapter 68, Jigglypuff Jive. The hair of Jinx prevents Red's escape by Aerodactyl. Once Red admits he knows not of where Giovanni is, Lorelei reveals the other reason for calling him there, to see if he's good enough to recruit into the Elite Four, and that this was all part of the plan. Red denies the offer with gusto, but is now surrounded by 3 members, Gastly, Hitmonlee, and Jinx. Lorelei chastises Red for not joining and that there will be no second chances. An unseen fighting formation of Ice, Fighting, and Ghost releases a massive light that instantly knocks out Venusaur, Poliwrath, and Gyarados, revealing the scene we had seen in Pika's nightmare. Jinx creates an icy voodoo doll that Lorelei marks to imprison Red's feet and hands. She follows with the doll of Pika, and the mountain is cast upon with a misty illusion. They claim they can't bear to watch and leave the rest to Bruno, who approaches silently, clearly not being himself, being controlled by the other members of the Elite Four. We get a repeat of Pika's nightmare playing out, but now we get to see more. Red barely hanging on as he tells Pika to not come to his aid. Ice crystals spreading over Red, and his gallows humor, of course, comes out. I puts all my plans on ice. He tells Pika to run because they only bound his feet, while his tail still works as a radar, allowing him to escape, find his way, and find help with Red's plan. Go someplace warm, melt the ice on your paws, and get to the professor. They're planning to punish the human race, and we can't let them do that. Red's last words before he was frozen solid. If only there were a trainer who could read your thoughts. Pika wakes up from his nightmare, Amarillo with him, unable to dig deep through Pika's thoughts to know what Pika's trying to tell her. Then arriving from the skies above, as Amarillo calls her, Miss Green, alongside Bill. Chapter 69, nice, playing horsey. With these 3 united, the duo makes the joke of it being a vacation, as Amarillo explains her plan to hide until it got dark before striking. My fear, though, is that Blue and Blaine may have been defeated or at least separated at this point. Green dons a jacket, and upon Jigglypuff covered in smokescreen of horsey, they ride in a cloud of smoke over the lands. Green can see right on through with her tech, and thanks to her intelligence, they fly right past a slew of Slowbro, eagerly searching for a fight in every direction. But with a small quarrel, they lose the map, which falls down to the Slowbro below. And while they might be on the lookout, they seem to not be very smart and just looks like they eat the map, but at least begin to carry it in their mouth and walk away. Horsey is sneakily released, and it attaches to the Shelter's spine that is on the Slowbro, releasing an ink tail that they then follow. We receive another update of Celadon covered in Shelter and Cloyster, while Erica and Tangela find groups of these intruders, but their hard shells prove impervious. Simultaneously, we find Brock struggling against the fighting Machop and Misty in similar dire straits against the onslaught of Gengar. And to make matters all the more worse, swarms of Aerodactyl and Dragonair are flying through the skies, prepared to descend upon all of our cities. Back to Amarillo and the gang, they seem to arrive at the same cave that Blue and Blaine made it to, but they can't find the horsey. They use the sensitive hearing of Green's Clefable and Amarillo's abilities, but while it is surprised, it's not afraid. This allows them to assume it's their allies that they hear, and we find, waiting for these heroes, not only Blue and Blaine, but also all of the Rocket Gym leaders, not a single scratch on any of them. Chapter 70, allied by Alakazam. Blaine walks up and clearly hasn't even met Green or Bill. The ability of people to stay hidden in this world kind of surprises me a little bit, but it turns out the arrival of the Elite Four earlier was just a red herring. They never made it to our Team Rocket and Blue and Blaine combo here. Instead, it was our heroes and the Rocket Trio state. They want to defeat the Elite Four, and that's all. They explain that they slipped out before the collapse of Sylph, having been rebuilding Team Rocket, but due to attacks on the mainland, they couldn't proceed. We can't have that in an area we're supposed to control. They all sit at a momentary standstill when the Rocket Trio offered to work with them and to hold their promise. Sabrina has her Alakazam use what is called Spoons of Destiny, and they explain further. The Elite Four haven't even moved from the island, but now with 8 total members, they'll take the Elite Four on 2-on-1 battles. The Spoons of Destiny then bend while everyone focuses their will to fight, which matches them with their partner. Amarillo and Blaine is the first pairing, but then there's Koga and Blue, Sabrina and Green. They're foes back from this Sylph battle. Bill has no will to fight, so his spoon doesn't bend. Neither does Surge's, since the Destiny Spoon would have paired him with the unavailable red. So Surge, in a rare moment of what I see as humanity, is joyous and takes Bill alongside him as his partner, even though Bill can't really do much to fight. Either way, they all set off separately through the caves that lead them through as the heart of the island, with the singular goal of defeating the Elite Four. Now with Koga and Blue, Koga comments on the nasty look in Blue's eyes getting even stronger and its quieter demeanor in these past 2 years. Blue's response, though, is to simply return Koga's Golbat to him in what may be their only opportunity of kindness. The same Golbat that can project images of what it detects with supersonic in its mouth for the duo to then visualize, all to locate their shared enemy in the dark. Chapter 71, Muck Raking. With an Arbok located and Shuriken thrown, they find that this means their opponent will be Agatha. But the star is more than just a weapon. It was a Pokeball that releases Koga's own Arbok. Koga stands atop it, ready for battle in the open while we hear the cackling of Agatha giving commands from the shadows. A little back and forth later, and Agatha's Rock Slide brings down stalactites thanks to the environment, striking Golbats and leaving Blue open to a paralyzing lick from a Gengar hidden in the shadows. The Rock Slide continues, separating a blinded Blue on one side, Koga on the other, and creating a maze. Blue's only decision is to use Golbat's Supersonic to guide them, as his eyes are not opening due to the paralysis. Yet another counter from Agatha then arrives in the form of her own counter-signaling Golbat. Back to Agatha, who approaches Koga. We are both snake trainers, you and I, of course. The skill level of a mere gym leader and a member of the Elite Four can be scarcely compared, as you are about to learn. A terrifying note. All of Agatha's Pokemon have been depicted without pupils, as though they are all possessed or charmed in some capacity. But sicker than this is something I wish I was in the games. It's actually, we watch Agatha change Arbok's hood patterning, which is then stated that every marking comes with different powers. The new one before us heightening speeds incredibly. First, it quickly wraps around Koga and his Arbok. Then Agatha follows with another pattern change, which multiplies its attack power and crushes them further. Agatha is toying with them. And like a cat with a mouse, states out loud, maybe one of the next patterns will be the pattern of doom for you. Chapter 72, Wheezing Winks Out. The battles become more dire in a Golbat v Golbat and Arbok v Arbok struggle. Koga's Arbok even having its tail bitten off and sent out of commission. Koga follows with a poison gas and smog combo, though Agatha's Arbok simply changes to a poison and vulnerability pattern and knocks the two Pokemon out. Koga is in dire straits, and he no longer has the medicine he could have given to Blue. But he sends a massive shuriken around Agatha. None of the shurikens seeming to attack Agatha directly, seemingly another ploy. Then he fights on, as his Arbok can regenerate any lost body parts as long as the head remains intact, confirming that this is in fact the same Arbok that Blue cut in half in Lavender Tower, reborn, or rather regenerated. In a turnabout moment though, Golbat, Golduck, and Blue return over the stalactite wall, one of the shuriken balls having an Ekans within it that had a paralyzed heal for Blue. Even further, the madman Koga has Golbat use Leech Life to draw blood from his own body and then cover the Arbok's patterning completely by spitting all the blood at it. No more pattern changing for it. And before it can strike, a shot of confusion from Golduck blasts through both Agatha and Arbok, defeating them just in time before the long tail of the Arbok could sneak from behind and poison sting Koga. Something that would have absolutely killed him by their own words. They move on, with Koga being held up by Blue as they walk. Now we find ourselves with Green and Sabrina as they come upon a floating trainer badge. As they question it, their arms are bound together by the ice of a hidden Lorelei. And I find it both creepy and weird, but she emerges from inside of a cloister. I guess cloister is just a ball that can move around in there, which is still really weird, but let's move on. Chapter 73, Valiant Venomoth. Lorelei explains her dolls created by Jinx, dolls that creates handcuffs when she marks it with her own lipstick. Though it's best to be careful, as though if the dolls were to shatter, so too will the person they depict. The duo struggle to cooperate for a moment as they dodge an attack, and a double release of Nidorina and Venomoth only results in Sabrina's sleep powder getting blown back at Green's Nido with Cloyster's Blizzard attack. They manage to dodge direct attacks from Jinx, while Sabrina starts to wonder if Lorelei's attacks are primarily aimed at Green, which honestly they likely are. After all, Green did foil Lorelei once already, and now Horsey is being held hostage. Wanting Horsey safe, Green follows Lorelei's demands, only to be absolutely smacked into the distance, landing unconscious as Sabrina is still cuffed to her. Sabrina, with repeat powderings from Venomoth, releases a sneak Mega Drain in the middle of them that puts the Cloyster down, and we switch over to Surge and Bill. And of course, Lance is being a loudmouth, calling out whoever is coming to fight him. He wants revenge on whoever it was attacking what he calls my Vermilion City. In fact, he already knew someone was headed to Vermilion, and they were trying to draw the individual out with those 3 squad leaders. Gotta say, those squad leaders stood no chance. They would have absolutely died. Let's be real here. So while Surge complains that Amarillo ruined the plan, I'm pretty sure she indirectly saved his lackeys. Surge, though, pauses, and we get a wide shot of a big pond. But what they haven't noticed are the 2 snake rows of boulders that are camouflaged onyx, completely imperceptible if you were in their shoes. Chapter 74, Make Way for Magikarp. They jump upon the rocks, but when they fall, Bill lands with a sploomf, which somehow he has the greatest powers of every character in this entire manga, as he can see the actual onomatopoeia for the words that are said for the splash, sploomf, however the heck you say that. He exclaims it isn't water when a Magikarp emerges, and he convinces it to use splash, that way they can both escape. The water is a viscous liquid, revealed to be similar to Victreebel acid as it melted away parts of Bill's clothing. Bruno has arrived on this extreme battleground. The Onyx reveals themselves, but to be fair, Bruno states that they are wild Onyx, not his own. This is an extreme that makes Bruno's blood run hot. The only way he could enjoy a battle, and of course the war veteran Lt.Surge sympathizes and accepts the challenge, because of course Red, Surge, and Bruno, they're all honestly the same personality walking different parts of life. They love battle, they love a challenge, they love fighting fair and thinking with their brain. I mean, Surge maybe not as fair, he just likes a good battle in the end no matter what. Finally, we get to Amarillo and Blaine. Pika being very antsy, and with the new Pikachu emotion mode on the Pokédex, Blaine can see that Pikachu is on the verge of remembering something important. But while Amarillo, who is more connected to Pokemon than technology can be, even she can't read Pika's thoughts clearly, and then it all hits. Pika has suffered so much physically and emotionally that it may have actually lost its memories while gaining psychological scarring. This would explain why Pika did not take Amarillo here immediately, because he couldn't, and that is said directly in the manga. And that's not something I would ever expect of Pokemon, but then again, I wouldn't expect the majority of this from Pokemon. A flash of light gives way to a one-way mirror that allows them to see the fight between Bill, Surge, and Bruno. And since we have a bruiser and a nerd together, hey, You're a college boy, right? You think of a strategy. They don't teach you this in college. At least, not yet they don't. Roxanne and Hoenn will be here soon enough, and hopefully she helps with that. But Bruno claims he won't use Onix in this battle, as victory by Pokemon alone is not rewarding to him, explaining as he is more than just a master of Earth and Rock. He is a master of martial arts. A Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and Machamp are all now released against a Vulpix and Electabuzz. Chapter 75, Electrode's Big Shock. The battle rages on throughout this changing arena. Comet punches and rolling kicks result in Electabuzz barely grabbing onto Onix and saving Bill's Vulpix from the acidic soup below. Blaine and Amarillo try to break through the wall to help, and Bruno notices someone is there from the sounds, but they make no dent. And again, it's a one-way mirror, so he can't see who it is, but he tells them to leave, seeing the intrusion as unacceptable. When they refuse to listen and continue pounding against the wall, one of Bruno's Onix come to give deliverance of consequences. Surge finds that the Machamp that Bruno has is still wearing a Machoke belt, meaning that it has only just recently evolved. It is likely not used to its 4 arms yet, is what I personally bet, meaning that those arms might just get tangled up in the fight if fought properly. And I wasn't quite right, but we get something cool anyway, as Surge and Bill run away, setting up a trap by leaving their Pokeballs behind and only releasing them to reveal and execute an Electrode, which is a trap that they set off with explosions from them, causing the Onix below to cry in pain and launch everyone from their backs into the soup below. They're saving grace before they touch it though. Surge's Magneton from long ago, which originally provided a prison of electromagnetic energy, now provides a safety net for our protagonists. Leading us into Chapter 76, Take a Chance on Chansey. At Cinnabar, we find Junior tending to the super nerd and his Pokemon as he is still unconscious from his possession. But he now stirs awake. The nerd opens up about having seen Red when he was still frozen whole. And even after a smack from Marowak, there was not a single crack upon its carapace of ice. But in one picture that the nerd took, there was a shadow in the background, an unknown arrival. As the waves churn upon the Elite Four HQ, as Blue and Koga stagger away, Agatha cackles back to consciousness, determined to ensure that the boys never escape. After all, they are within her maze. Never again will anyone stand in the way of Agatha. I will not suffer that again. And now her grudge against Oak will be revealed. His championship victory, a younger Agatha and Oak. Agatha questioning why Oak left their research group. They've forgotten their purpose, Agatha. All they care about is finding ways to make Pokemon do their whims. I can't condone that. A battle ensues between them as Agatha tells Oak he isn't free to leave. But Oak states he will just do his own research and be true to his own goal of creating a Pokemon encyclopedia, something that can be beneficial to scientists and trainers, humans and Pokemon alike. The fight comes to a close. Oak victorious, their last words to each other for an entire year followed. You're a fool, Oak! You'll be dead before you'll have filled half of that Pokédex! Could be. If that's what fate decrees, then my children or grandchildren will take up the quest. A year later, they fought in the league tournament, and after 8 hours of fighting, Agatha states that Oak barely won. We see a Gastly and a Chansey, likely meaning that the Gastly kept attacking while Chansey stalled her out with soft boiled egg healing, which is actually kind of hilarious because we do see that in that fight earlier. Back to present day, she finishes her flashback reminding herself of her vow of wanting to force Oak to admit that Agatha was correct, but that he was also her inspiration for what she has done with her life, and he could put that on his tombstone. As for your grandson and his friend, well, they'll be in heaven to meet you. The looming shadow of Gengar is seen attached to the boys. This was all part of the plan in case Agatha did fall in that first fight. Chapter 77, Striking Golduck. The two feel like they've been going in circles. Notice Agatha is now gone on one of their loops, and Koga is feeling weaker, a lot weaker. They are unaware of Gengar's curse going into effect, but Koga concludes it has to be more than his blood loss, as if his energy is being sucked out. They question if they're hallucinating for a second before sending out Golduck and coughing to attack an unseen threat. Gengar emerges to dispatch those Pokemon before dipping back into the shadows. To follow, Scyther, Charizard, and Ninetales are all released, and my bet is Gengar can't hide in shadows if there are no shadows to hide in, so light this thing up. But unfortunately, they don't come to this conclusion, or at least are not fast enough, as Gengar dips from the shadows to other shadows the moment they touch, and slowly dispatches Pokemon one by one. The more shadows there are, the more places it has to hide. Blue notes that, as Gengar was using Counter, it is a move that retaliates against physical attacks while being a physical attack itself, meaning that it, in and of itself, is a physically attacking Pokemon. And through converting Porygon, it can become a ghost type and avoid those physical attacks. This works, but Agatha trained this freaking Gengar in guerrilla warfare tactics, leaving Blue on the defensive the entire time. An update on Brock, pushed into a corner by the massive Machop, his city in ruin. But he still smiles while protecting the Kabuto tank and the Pewter City Museum of Science. His Geodude 6 team prepped to protect and fight. I will note, they all have different eyes, and that made me smile when I first saw that. Though despite the defenses, a Machop gets through and strikes Brock directly, which leads into Erica being blasted back in Celadon as a Shelter clamps onto her. If this was a book, it'd be perfect because you'd go from one side, him getting hit, flip the page, and see her getting shot away. It's honestly beautiful. But they seem to be trying to take something from her as it does clamp onto her. I surmise it's her badge. Tangela saves the day, and before we can hear a word from an informant, we cut to Cerulean, where a Krabby is trying to free Misty from rubble. When she stands, exhausted, and with the ghostly numbers not dipping, she receives word that the Elite Four's 4th army has finally arrived at all 4 cities, now including Cinnabar. In a moment of ingenuity, Misty says that long ago travelers used the stars to show them the way, and so she sent Starmie into the sky to draw a path to be her guiding light. Returning to Surge and Bill, before Surge can climb up, he is grabbed by the wrapping leg of Hitmonlee. Bruno has not dipped into the drink. He is still alive, his eyes open with focused intimidation, and Surge begins being pulled down. Chapter 78, Victim of Venusaur. The struggle continues. Surge is pulled down, but saved by his own Magneton. Hitmonlee's legs and arms fly to strike them, causing Surge to fall to his perilous end, until a familiar vine saves him. The spoon of destiny bends, and standing before us is the wide grinning Red, and the Venusaur who saved Surge. Of course, he's on his bike on the freaking edge of an Onix. He rides on, saves Surge, dodges Hitmonlee, and even puts it to sleep. Red has his back safely covered by a wall. Amarillo and Blaine on the other side, but despite their yelling, he doesn't hear them. They go unnoticed as they scream Red's name. What is noticed though, in the last second, is the opening created underwater due to the explosions earlier on that knocked walls in the caves down. A tsunami rolls in, dragging the 3 away just in the exact moment that Amarillo's hat is knocked off. Her ponytail revealed, and she is finally noticed to be a lady by Blaine. The end of Volume 6. But before we move on, it is shown that by the next volume would be released, at least in like the author's notes, that Gold and Silver games would be released. And the leads of the manga are excited with some ideas as to how they're going to show rather than tell what their plans are for the manga as it would continue. Now let's get on to the final volume of the Yellow Saga. Actually, you know, hold on. I got a little too excited there, and I'm not going to show it in the edit, but I got so excited upon Red's reveal that I teared up a little bit because I I love reading. I have very strong emotions. I tie my emotions really strongly to what I read and characters and stories. So seeing Red back fills me with so much joy because of these attachments. And I can only hope that you have some level of the same joy that I do in all of this. So now let's get into the final volume of the Yellow Saga. Volume 7, Chapter 79, Airing Out Aerodactyl. We see the success of Starmie going to the sky. The gym leaders of Justice notice the cities with gyms are being attacked, focusing more and more on the gym leaders, as though they are trying to steal, as I surmised, the gym badges, which would explain why Vermilion City was attacked. They were searching for Surge, and why other cities are not being attacked currently, because of the fact that either A, they didn't have the armies, or B, they know that the gym leaders with their badges are not there. Though, with the current situation, with our heroes and their badges being stolen, Starmie writes out a message in the sky. Back to Amarillo and Blaine, she's embarrassed and admits that she feels naked without her hat, not wanting to talk about it. Blaine respects this, though the Pokédex and her sketchbook are gone, and we get a glimpse of all the art she made of Pika and Red while it sits washed onto a shore away from them. Despite these troubles, the trio stand tall, Pika, Blaine, and Amarillo, and prepare to keep moving. Their only exit from Cerise Island being to defeat the Elite Four. Growlithe lights the way for them, and then he appears, Lance, claiming the fates of the cities have been sealed. All of humanity and its cities will fall to their armies, be leveled, and the world will turn as Lance wants it. Pika shines a light to fully reveal him and his Aerodactyl. A very special note, Pokemon often take after their trainers, and every trainer's Pokemon in the manga has the same type of eyes as the trainer does once they've been together long enough. It's a phenomenal detail, really, that says a lot without saying a single word about it, and it's something I haven't talked about in this covering of the manga so far. Blaine holds his bandaged hand out to keep Amarillo behind him. I'll take to this. To defeat him, it'll be necessary to merge our powers. Your powers are impressive, Yellow, but let's run a test first, so we're both not wiped out with the first blow. Watch his battle style carefully. Aerodactyl's Hyper Beam rings out, only to be caught in the palm of Mewtwo in another killer dynamic shot. The full reveal of Mewtwo is finally here. Lance laughs at this. I've heard of you, the genetic Pokemon born of arrogant human experimentation. And somehow, with the wave of his hand, everyone is shot to the surface of Cerise for this oncoming battle. I still stand by the idea that the island is alive because why not? But a fight between Aerodactyl and a smiling Mewtwo begins, though Blaine and Mewtwo stay defensive to have Amarillo carefully note strengths and weaknesses of Lance. Until then, our only worry is how long this body of mine will last. Blaine's hand trembles in pain. This is likely the strain of having such a powerful Pokemon as his fighting partner, worsened yet by the mixing of their cells. This is not Mewtwo's fault, this is just reality. Dragon in Dragonair. The ground crumples, but through Mewtwo's power, the trio float into the air, even to Lance's surprise, as they then slam like a pinball into him and Aerodactyl. In retaliation, Lance releases Twin Dragonair to call upon winds and thunderclouds. Amarillo's Sphere showing as she states, as if the two were gods of the storm. Blaine knows their power combined is dangerous in controlling the weather, but they lower their barrier as part of a plan to allow Mewtwo to release his Psychic Tornado and a mixing of Psy waves that suck the Dragonair duo in. Remember though, that Lance is no fool, as this just provides him another opportunity to attack, until Mewtwo brings everyone to what is only seen as a moment of safety when the sword-sharp wings of Aerodactyl swings in with a takedown, only to then barely be blocked by the spoon of Mewtwo. Mewtwo with the spoon is the only Mewtwo for me, I have to say. Now, Klinging rings out in their battle. Blaine explains he is stuck, having to be close to Mewtwo thanks to their own genetic connection. For if they are too far apart, it will put too much stress on Mewtwo's body, a body that is incomplete and requires specially engineered fluid in chamber and Pokeball to keep Mewtwo alive, alongside a time limit of about 3 minutes for their combat. Otherwise, Blaine's body will also continue degenerating, as it has now reached up to his shoulder. That just skin, the melting of his body has reached all the way from his hand, all the way up his arm, past the elbow and into the shoulder, and they don't show it. But just knowing that it's continuing to affect his body tells us everything. Blaine cracks a plan to destroy Lance's Pokeball's opening functions, the last 3 balls he has, and Amarillo takes Aerodactyl while the spoon of Mewtwo transforms, extends, aiming to hit the Pokeballs, and it seems to succeed. Chapter 81, Aerodactyl Redux. Mewtwo's spoon fades, crumpling into dust slowly. Blaine collapses, and while Amarillo celebrates and Mewtwo wheezes from strain, Lance stands with his broken Ultra Ball in admiration of Mewtwo's power. It's just too bad that this still won't be enough to win. And Lance reveals something that was hinted at long ago, because he stated his detestment of Pokemon being stuck in cramped spaces, cramped cities. Pokeballs, while he didn't say it directly, would count as one of those cramped containers, prisons if you would, meaning as Aerodactyl reveals, the Pokeballs were empty. And here comes the rest of Lance's team. Dragonair, Dragonite, Gyarados. This is the Elite Four Lance's Dragon Force. Mewtwo wants to battle further, but Lance talks it down, questioning if it's willing to continue fighting. For the more he battles, the more Blaine will suffer. With the Dragonair and Aerodactyl pretty exhausted, but the remainder of Lance's team standing at full health, the rest is up to Amarillo. He releases his team, who Lance comments on their lack of evolution. Amarillo openly states she hasn't let them evolve, but Lance, while calling her strange, refuses to pull any punches. Not only this, but Lance reveals that he can also heal his Pokemon in the same exact manner that Amarillo can. Chapter 82, Eradicate. Amarillo has heard rumor that Lance had this power, but now it is confirmed for her. What does this mean, though? Because I don't remember seeing this anywhere else, meaning that Lance has to have some sort of deeper connection with nature, just like Amarillo. And it turns out that Green knew this, as per Amarillo's words. Mewtwo, do you know of the Veridian forest? Veridian means an emerald hue, deep and rich. It's a vast and lush forest. It is said that once every few years, a child is born possessing the mysterious powers of the forest. And indeed, I am one who possesses those powers, but just because I hail from Veridian, can I truly go up against Lance? Can I truly overcome such an incredible power? A determined look and rattling of Mewtwo's ball at Amarillo later, likely some thoughts shared with her that we do not hear. She thanks Mewtwo and states that she will do her best no matter what. Amarillo arrives at the active volcano of Cerise Island, a volcano close to erupting due to Gyarados and Dragonite burrowing into the ground and stirring things up. Turns out they were the reason for all the rumblings, and the island is seemingly not alive. It's just their causing of whatever the heck is happening. What better backdrop for our final fight? Dragonite, in its massive size, bashes the ground nearby, releasing lava and flaming boulders that Omni puts out to keep Amarillo safe. This explains why Blaine was training with Mewtwo with the help of Junior. Those raining fireballs coming down needing to be pushed back. Amarillo fights back the imposter syndrome she has and shores up her courage to strike at Dragonite with Dodie and Ratty, who only bats them away as if they were just mosquitoes. In the next instant, the remainder of Pokemon fall, with exception to Pika. None of their attacks a match for Dragonite's impenetrable armor. Now, will you flail on or will you put your tail between your legs and run away? I will not run. If I give up now, all of the cities will be destroyed. Oh, but they won't simply be destroyed. I will rebuild them. I will cleanse the land of arrogant humanity and build a world where all Pokemon can live in freedom. That's wrong. It's wrong. Understand your rage. It's true that humans have done selfish things, taking away Pokemon homelands, stripping them of their food supply. I've seen the results of that on my journey, but does that give you the right to punish the human race? Does that give you the right to raise cities? Pokemon are not tools for revenge. Even this battle of yours has hurt not just humans, but Pokemon as well. Silence! I will not be silent. I hate fighting. I'm truly sad when any Pokemon are injured, even my opponents. Just now you were healing both of your Dragonair and your Aerodactyl, right? You have incredible power. Why do you use it for destruction? Why do you use it for evil? The person who first introduced me to Pokemon once told me, if you care for them with a kind and gentle heart, then they'll always be your friends. Aren't Pokemon your friends too? Amarillo sheds a tear while holding the injured Ratty in her arm. Lance moves to silence her. Dragonite's Fire Blast, fueled by lava energy, sends her on top of a rock placed within a river of lava, and things are dire once more. The Fourth Army is now shown to descend upon the Cinnabar Island gym, breaking it open as Junior and Nerd hide to safety. Chapter 83, Bang the Drum, Slowbro. A fast return to see Alakazam's Psychic not working on Lorelei's Slowbro, all because of amnesia, which it just allows it to, quote-unquote, forget the hit being taken and instead keep fighting. Basically, like, imagine getting punched and usually your body reacts to it. You know, you feel the pain. That's all that is. It is shown that a Slowbro's slowness only extending to its attacks, as Slowbro knew about the Horsea Ink Drop ploy all along. Lorelei teases the reveal of a Slow King and pushes both the unconscious Green and barely hanging on Sabrina to the edge of a cliff. Given the opportunity to drop Green, Sabrina refuses due to their partnered pack, and she will not abandon a partner. Something that Lorelei claims to be the thing that led to the Team Rocket organization's demise. Through this, we can see that the Elite Four, or at least the majority of them, don't even care for each other. And as Jinx sends them flying down this chasm, Green awakens with Blastoise to save them with its flying water cannon. And as Green answers Lorelei's questions, we get a flashback of how Green came to find Lance as a potential target, all due to information brought to her by an informant that looks like, or rather just straight up is, Silver himself. Someone we know outside of the manga at this point. This is the son of Giovanni. Again, we don't know that yet in the manga, but still, come on, it's great. Silver states that Lance is taking control of a giant flying Pokemon, that he intends to, and that he is incredibly strong. And the only way to counter it is by having another Veridian trainer with similar powers and a Pokemon born in the same forest. This explains why Amarillo was chosen, the counter to Lance. She moves to save the injured Pika, and she meets Amarillo for the first time, who even uses her powers in front of Green to find that Ratty, through the reading of the mind, has not seen Pika in the area either. Green accidentally sees, in addition, Amarillo's sketches of Red, learns of her connection to him, and how she looks up to this legendary trainer. Green explains that Amarillo may have the power to save him, and once she agrees, she was sent out on her mission after teaching Amarillo basic Pokemon battle skills. Rules given, and hat placed on Amarillo's head from Green as a disguise, she declares upon her the name Caballero Amarillo and sends her off, meaning that Amarillo first saw Pika again at the lab. Not that they were teamed up before or during Pika's injury on his way back to the lab. Back to present day, Green declares this her telling of this tale, her victory strut. Her Clefable seemingly disappears, only for us to find that it used Minimize and has retrieved the Icy Dolls. Chapter 84, Clefabulous Clefable. A blast of Blastoise covers Clefable, but it trips, dropping the dolls, and results in Green losing her arm. Though we see no blood, interestingly enough, Green screams, acting in pain until it's revealed that her hand was but a Ditto, who extends and wraps itself around Lorelei and Jinx, capturing them in its bind. A trick from the very beginning, and considering her reconnaissance on the Elite Four, this makes perfect sense. Lorelei hides how upset she is on now being foiled from assisting in creating a Pokemon refuge, but she passes out. Green stating, "You tried your best, but you were fighting the wrong battle. I was guilty of the same thing once." And that goes back to what I've been saying about the Elite Four. They have an understanding that humanity is hurting nature, but their methods to counter this harm is wrong. Sabrina wakes up, of course upset that Green didn't let her in on the trick, but we return to Red and Bruno in an instant, the latter holding his head. "It happened again. The terrible headaches, and then the blackouts." Red calls for everyone to stand back as he has to settle his own battle with Bruno. Surge smiles at this and sets off while Bruno thinks about how he has no recollection of his Hitmonlee destroying Bill's house. His memories are in pieces, but instead of thinking things through, he is too excited to fight the perfect opponent in a pure match that will not be interrupted. Hitmonchan almost predicts the switch out from Venusaur as it changes from fire to Thunder Punch, even Ice being a known punch that it holds in its back pocket. Bruno claims it's like having 3 Pokemon in one when Red reveals he too has a Pokemon just like that. His Eevee paired now with the Eternal Evolution Stones. And all that waiting has paid off, my dear viewer. Eevee changes between its forms as a consistent counter to Hitmonchan's attacks. Something that was but a simple mutation is our cooperative bond that is developed as Eevee wants to use this ability, now being able to control it without harming itself better, alongside its partnership with Red and those Eternal Evolutionary Stones. Machamp is released only to be blocked by Poliwrath, but a releasing of its belt allows it to unlock its full power and send our hero's Pokemon flying. Though we are to never doubt the ingenuity of Red, for with a splash of water along the Onix, we see the honestly funny face of Vaporeon rope into existence, and Vaporeon emerges from the puddle left from the water gun, all thanks to its move, Acid Armor. One final transformation into a pin missile striking Jolteon, and Koga is beaten. He laughs happily at his loss. "Red, I didn't care about the plan that Lance and the others had from the start, and I don't plan to join or agree with them now. If your friends are as good as you, Red, they may actually defeat Lorelei and the rest of them. Humans and Pokemon can train to be as strong as they want to be. All my life I've lived with powerful, well-trained Pokemon, and I intend to continue that. This was a most satisfying match. Thank you." Bruno appeased. He walks away with his head held high. Then Bill is dropped by Surge directly on top of Red, ditching him as their co-op mission has been completed. Lt.Surge doesn't attack Red though, but is ditching them to meet up with Sabrina and Koga. Red finds his Pokédex and Amarillo's sketchbook, and looking at the decks, he sees that Pika is in danger. While Red bikes with Bill, he answers Bill's question, stating that someone helped him out of the block of ice that he was in because he couldn't get out on his own, and that person handed him the Eternal Stones. Chapter 85, Gimme Shelter. Misty and Erica in communication both experience the opposing Pokemon tossing the badges away, finding that the Pokemon are only trying to find the badges they don't have, being the 8th badge, which we would know is with Giovanni. Back to Blue and Porygon, they're reaching their limits slowly as Gengar continued to pressure them. He notes that Gengar moves from shadow to shadow and it's reacting to something before shifting between those shadows. He finds that it is reacting to sound, meaning anything that makes sound is a target, while Agatha can't give direct commands. He sweats, and his own shadow forms through Gengar and bops him one before he notices a message in the smokescreen of coughing. He silently signals for their plan. The old chopped tail of Arbok falls and moves as a decoy, and as the Gengar reacts to the sound of the tail, Porygon drops a Psybeam to debilitate it. And it turns out The tail just keeps moving away from the body of an Arbok even after being cut, still being able to be controlled by it, which Arbok just comes with more and more surprises, I swear. When are we gonna get that Arbok Mega? Give it a massive hood, you know what I mean? Koga is prepared to leave with their mission done, but Gengar tries to get up. Golbat immediately uses Confuse Ray to light the entire cave and even prevent Agatha from escaping back into the shadows. Agatha surrenders, reminiscing and even complimenting Oak and Blue. She admits being a softie in the end, and how Oak deliberately used attacks ineffective against ghost types in her surprise attack all those years ago. She points the boy's gaze upwards to see the message written by Starmie. The army of dragons has invaded the mainland. Searching for badges, Elite Four's goal is badges' collective energy. Agatha confirms this, and with the last of her energy claims the Elite Four will win the war, and sets up to escape. She reveals that all the Pokemon that were sent to the cities were all under her control alone, but now Lance's army has arrived. She states that she studied how to control another's Pokemon and mimic their Pokeballs. This explains why Bruno did not remember his Hitmonlee being controlled. A formation of troops that she runs, who is commanded through a group leader in the form of simple commands. So she commands a group leader, those group leaders command a group of Pokemon. A concept we were familiarized with through the Primeape and the Mankeys, the Magneton and the Magnemite, and one other that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Meaning that all that needs to be done is to take out the leader. But going further, Agatha indeed did control Bruno with the power of the 7 badges, the bands on his wrists being the same as the bands on her Pokemon. And the whole reason all this happened the way it did was because Pika saw their special attack in the battle against Red. And the only way to fight such immense energy is to counteract with stronger force. It cannot be returned. So it fled. Though Agatha states she talked for too long and now disappears. I would not doubt that this special attack would be anything different from water, fire, or a grass pledge, but of course, something for our other typings, but it might not get an actual official term, understanding what we have here. Daybreak is nearly here. Pokédexes of our heroes are resonating with each other thanks to proximity, and we see what seems like the silhouette of Giovanni and Nidoking, with a flaming fist being the one who saved Red, as he continues to explain his story to Bill. Though Red never saw this person's face, he was told that he was not going to end here, even giving Red the Spoon of Destiny, which means that this is absolutely Giovanni, the absolute mega Chad that he is, who saved Red from the shadows. It would also explain why the other evil gym leaders are here, because Giovanni brought them here. We move into chapter 86, Double Dragonair. Again, another video game reference. Really cool. Amarillo avoids falling into the tumultuous lava, and Pika rides in to create a surfboard for them to ride on the lava of. They just can't stop being cool and fun. Oh my god. But even Lance calls them ingenious, respecting them for this. He rides next to them, riding Dragonite, and reads Pika's thoughts to find that the two of them grew up in the Veridian forest, just like him. While Pika tries to attack, it is easily countered with Hyper Beam, as Lance admits he too was from those Veridian forests, confirming why he has the same powers as Amarillo predicted. A clash of power continues, with Lance commending Amarillo as one of his better opponents due to him having to use 4 of the powers within Dragonair. Galloping across sea and air, changing direction of energy blasts, controlling the weather, and even combining their attack modes. Normally, he would only have to use the first 2. He bestows that pride to Amarillo before making her question just how much power he may truly have with all 5 of his Pokemon. An answer she won't find, as he claims everything ends here. In this moment, Amarillo hears Mewtwo, releases it, and as it dives into the lava, it creates a whirlpool using the lava, something that hits Dragonite and injures Lance. Amarillo offers a chance to surrender, but Lance refuses and charges through the lava with prideful determination, slamming into Pika and Amarillo, but they don't fall into the lava. Instead, it seems like Lance has momentarily disappeared. Chapter 87, Rhyhorn Rising. Amarillo stands befuddled upon Pika's surfboard, questioning if Lance is even alive due to his reckless attack and diving into the lava, assuming that's where he went. In this time, the rest of her team arrives and pulls them out from the lava. But of course, encased in Gyarados' bubble of safety, Lance reemerges from the lava like a twisted phoenix looming over their target. Bubbles slam with enough force to fracture, if not break, Amarillo's arm. Her team is injured, the bubbles being invisible due to their combination of colors, reflection, and sunlight upon dawnbreak. But Kitty creates an array of string to locate the bubbles like a spider would before they would strike, as she hatches a plan of success, knowing they can't fight one at a time. We stare at the twisted visage of twin Dragonairs and Gyarados wrapped around Lance, all encased in a massive shielding bubble that acts as a bubble railgun. The bubbles stop short at electrified string shot being carried by Ratty. Omni's water allowing the entire thread to be electrified for safety, all a distraction then for Dodie to drill peck the bubble encasing Lance, but it's not strong enough. A finishing blow descends upon Amarillo, only for her to be saved by the one and only Giovanni, another trainer from the Veridian Forest. The absolute based Giovanni has officially returned. Chapter 88, the Beedrill All and End All. Pika is furious at Giovanni's appearance. Amarillo reads Pika to understand who Giovanni is, and Lance is unaware at first, instead raging an attack against Giovanni. With bubbles flying, Giovanni has Rhyhorn crush a boulder and whip it up at the bubbles, making them visible once more. Nidoqueen follows with an attack, but the bubble withstands the strike. A triple hyper beam follows, destructive in its force, but only a momentary setback for the observant Giovanni, who notices an opening in the bottom of the bubble, allowing Beedrill, as he slides the Pokeball under the bubble, to shoot out and through to burst the bubble from below, technically from the inside. Lance and his team fall into the trap below. A string net, a spider web, if you would. Giovanni explains his Beedrill. While it ventures outside his specialty, it is his own special Pokemon, one that did evolve in Veridian Forest. This gives us another connection, just like Amarillo and Pika's, but that makes me wonder who Lance's connection is. Did he lose the Pokemon, or is it a Dratini from the past? Beedrill holds Lance at needlepoint, pressed to his neck. Giovanni was the one that Lance may have been searching for, but did not actually know it. He didn't know that Giovanni was the 8th gym leader because the 8th gym leader was gone, had been kept in secret for so long. Giovanni scolds Lance for his destruction against Team Rocket during its comeback. Lance reveals Giovanni as that leader of Team Rocket, and Amarillo begins to snap mentally, realizing this was the person that used her home and the beautiful Veridian Forest to perform his evil deeds. Before Giovanni can kill Lance, a shadow looms above them all, light erupts, and Giovanni's badge is being pulled away into the sky. Chapter 89, The Might of Metapod? Lance explains that hidden under 7 stone columns that jut towards the sky from the perimeter of the island are the 7 other badges. He has created a larger version of that badge disc, the amplifier. One giant badge energy amplifier is the island, and now they stand at the midpoint. This is why the island has 7 pillars. Luring the 8th badge with whoever had it to the center was the plan all along. Easier to do that than to take the badge and place it into their amplifier. Now, that energy cascades into the sky above to create a legendary spirit. And that spirit looks a lot like Lugia to me. It would make sense though, considering the legendary bird combination, Zapdos, Moltres, Articuno, but let's continue to find out. Updating our situation with Sabrina and Green, Sabrina senses the resolution of battles and departs, while Green minorly laments that she never got to use her ace in the hole, her 7th Pokemon, Snubbull. So not only is she breaking the norm by having 7 Pokemon, but she also has a Generation 2 Pokemon that she hasn't even revealed to anyone else yet, which she may have gotten it from Silver since she's been communicating with him. But Green gazes up to see the form of the spiritual legendary. Giovanni even sweats at this and runs away. Lance sets to fly up to this legendary Pokemon. This was my object from the beginning, to take control of this Pokemon, to ride the one that no one has ever been able to tame. If I can control it, then not only the mainland, but the entire world will be freed from humanity forever. Amarillo is reaching that breaking point again, calling Lance insane for not seeing the pain and destruction that he will bring by doing this. But she is blocked again by the gargantuan Dragonite. Though Lance in his hyperfixation has not noticed how exhausted the Dragonite is, how it intended to use itself as a sacrifice and was pretending to be okay. Damaged likely from all the battling, the lava, all of it. It takes a moment and then flies to Lance. Stop! The effort will kill you! Why would you do all of this for Lance? My trainer fights for Pokemon. We will punish the human enemy. I must do anything for him. Amarillo is accidentally reading Dragonite's feelings. Of course you feel rage towards humans, but Lance is just taking advantage of those feelings. I understand why you think he's your friend, but think this way, his way, is not the answer. Humans don't deserve punishment any more than Pokemon. Humans and Pokemon can live together. I know it. You know it too, Pika. Omni, Dodi, Kitty, Gravy. How do I show them? Give me the power to show them. Amarillo rises to land upon the legendary creature. Lance quickly retaliates in surprise, only for Aerodactyl's attack to be blocked by Kitty, who evolved in the exact moment it was released, shielding Amarillo as Metapod. Our girl has understood the feelings of evolution. She accepts that she can't stop her Pokemon from evolving after battles ever again, no longer having the Pokedex with her, but that they're all going to stop Lance together. So please lend me your power, the power to protect the world. And so we see the simultaneous evolution of our friends, joining Ratty the Raticated and Pika as still a Pikachu. We have a Golem, Dodrio, and an Omastar. But better yet, evolving a second time in a matter of seconds is Catty into a full Butterfree, who carries Amarillo as though she bears the wings herself. A perfect metaphor visually in her change and evolution as a human being, as a trainer with newfound determination to stop Lance with the power of her allies. The final chapter, Chapter 90, The Legend. And we get that beautiful side-by-side if you were reading the books. Moving on though, we see the battle unfold. Beams and defensive measures, slam attacks and all. Lance calling it a battle of shields, something that Amarillo is willing to continue until Lance sees the truth. Though the legendary Pokemon is still devouring energy from the amplifier and is said to be able to bring every land under the sky to its absolute control, and then Lance will take control of this legendary creature. Lance speaks to his Dragonite, excited to see a brand new world free from humans, but Amarillo begins seeing the memories of Pika, understanding that this great energy needs to be blasted away in order to end the powering up of this legendary and end Lance's madness. Our OG3, Red, Blue, and Green, meet up once more and make it outside to Blaine, who has a string drawn down to him from Amarillo. The trio quickly pick up on this with Blaine's guidance, and using their starter Pokemon, they send all their power along the thread to Amarillo, light coalescing in brilliance around her. Kitty and Pika. I call upon the power of the Veridian Forest. Give us the power of Megavolt! And it is more than just Pika attacking. In fact, the energy is directly coming from Amarillo, being able to concentrate it into an attack against Lance. As Lance is overwhelmed, we see a time in his young age where he met the sickly Dratini and Magikarp that I assume, or we can assume, became his Dragonite and Gyarados. the moment when he gazed upon the folly of man's advancements and pollution and vowed to destroy it all. The energy deflected by Amarillo's efforts rains upon the earth, now transforming into life-giving power that brings about flowers and more, as observed by Giovanni. Energy that he surmises will allow it all to flourish on this island. And my wish was granted. Amarillo stood true to her ideals, picking the route of peace rather than pure destruction in this manner. In fact, calling in her ability to heal not just Pokemon, but the world. Sabrina and Surge make it to Giovanni, who verbally berates them for their weakness in seeking help from children, from their enemies. He suggests they return to their gyms where the Megavolt is 10 times more powerful than the Thunderbolt, questioning if any of them have the ability to produce even that much power, as much as Red and Amarillo have managed in their own rights. Even some of the deflected energy is reaching the mainland. This means that all those destitute lands may very well be saved from pollution, as we have seen in all of Amarillo's travels to this point. And we even get to see exactly that. The Minky and Primate from before happy again. The Pokemon armies falling, as Erica notes the powers of destruction have transformed into powers of life. Amarillo stares the legendary in the face, who kinda seems to have Ho-Oh's tail feathers now. You've warmed the light, releasing all the energy from the badges. I'm glad. And as she has done many times before, exhausted from the use of her powers, Amarillo passes out and falls. Though Red and Aerodactyl are there to catch her with a smile on both of their faces. She awakens at night under the stars. Her team recollects around her as she slowly remembers that they all evolved. Omni takes her forward to Pika, who seems sad and runs away into Red's arms. Pika, that's right. You're Red's Pokemon. We were together for so long, I've forgotten. But let's stay like we were before, just for a little while longer. We see them all before Amarillo had evolved most everyone else, the team sleeping away together in her imagination, in her dreams. Something I find to be one of the most touching moments we have gotten so far. Amarillo has grown up a bit and is holding on to those memories of her journey with her friends, though she wakes back up on the back of Gyarados alongside the rest of our heroes. We are informed Lance was blasted away. The legendary flew off west, which, unless this was taking place in the area of the Sevi Islands, the only place west of here would be Hoenn. If it was in the Sevi Islands area, then yes, they would be flying to Johto, just for map sake. Either way, armies are gone. Blaine is saying how remarkable it is that even Golem evolved without being traded, thanks to the overwhelming power that was released when they were finally allowed to evolve, and it's revealed that everyone knows who Amarillo really is, except for Red, as she is still wearing her hat. The battle is over, and Red thanks Amarillo. He notices just how much Pika likes her, and jokes about them all living together for a moment, as there is a string on Amarillo's finger that attaches to Red's pinky finger as well. This, my dear viewer, is the physical representation and inspiration of the item Destiny Knot, something that is a kind of the thing in real life. It does not need to be romantic. It is a physical symbol of a genuine connection and even a promise between people. And so, the story of Yellow Caballero and the battle with the Elite Four came to a close. Yellow, Red, Green, and Blue reunited with Misty and the others on the mainland, and they all poured their energies into rebuilding the ravaged cities. The rest of our characters turned to their own separate paths, chasing new goals. Lieutenant Surge and Sabrina followed Giovanni's orders and returned to their respective gyms. What happened to Koga and Giovanni themselves, however, nothing is yet known. So time flows, and the stories never truly end. We now see Green reaching out to, I assume, Silver, updating him with a mission, as she is unsure if the legendary she saw was the Pokemon that kidnapped her. And she does confirm that it disappeared west, towards Johto. And it ends with something that gave me chills. So I'd like for you to continue your investigation. I'm counting on you, Silver. We finalize our shots on Silver's team, a shot of Johto, and the end page of Pokemon Adventures Yellow, or as I will always call her, Amarillo. Now I could give my final thoughts on all of this. I loved this even more than the red, blue, green arc, or as I called it, the red arc. If you loved this, tell me your favorite parts. Gush about it in the comments. I read all the comments, plus comments boost the channel, let's be real, for reach and interactions and all that good stuff. But more importantly, this was an amazing read. Once again, I find myself more than satisfied, I'm gonna say. I'm beyond satisfied because this took my childhood and made it even better. It revived it, I guess, for lack of a better word, and for, you know, pun's sake, I suppose. But ultimately, it's something that takes everything we've known, expands on it, twists it in different ways, and continues to do it in such a beautiful way with beautiful characters that do have more depth than you would expect from Pokemon. You know, I go into this with the idea of, oh, this is a children's book in the end, but it has very mature themes where if you are a young adult, you'll appreciate it. But even as an adult, in my appreciation for nature and all that it is, my understanding of it, and the want to make a change, you can see why people go down these paths. In all reality, all of these characters are way more similar to each other in their base ideas than we might see. That's why Blue is with Koga. That's why Sabrina is with Green. That's why Red is with Surge. These are people who have the same base personality, but because of their paths in life or where they are in their life, their age, their experiences, you name it, they have turned into different people. Surge wanted more power. He wanted to be stronger. He became bored with life. What was happening to Red? He was getting bored. But the difference is Red's strength and faith in Pokemon and being partners with humanity in Pokemon allowed him to stray from that evil path and stay off of it entirely. We see this as well with Amarillo and Lance. A beautiful moment, a beautiful parallel with not only those two, but Giovanni. Three people born of the Veridian Force, with Amarillo having that deep connection with nature, not wanting to hurt it. Giovanni not caring if he hurts other people other than his own Pokemon, and maybe the little bit of respect that he has for the strong. And Lance being the further extreme, saying that he's not afraid to kill everyone for the sake of Pokemon. He and those two are pieces of each other, pieces of a greater puzzle, and different interpretations of how people walk their paths of life. I think I've made most of the comparisons that I truly can throughout my reading of this and my explanation of this. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did, and you want to see more of the manga just like this, support the channel in any way that you can. This took so much time, probably more than 30-40 hours, because of reading it, analyzing it, recording, then editing it, you name it. So if you enjoyed it, leave that comment. Support the channel through watch time. Those are the best free ways to support a channel and help it grow. Subscribe, share this with other people on top of that if you can, which it's a free thing, so please do so. And if you can responsibly afford to do so, consider becoming a member for as little as $3 a month. Then I could use some of that money for thumbnails, for editing, whatever it is, you name it, because I do all the work myself, and it just supports the channel and creation of videos like this as a whole. Keeps the channel safe, because ad revenue is not really a reliable thing on YouTube. Nevertheless, with that then, before we do go, I do have to shout out all of the members of the channel. Thank you to all of our members of the channel, starting with the Gods of Hope, Krill Final Fantasy 14, Krill Heals for Life, Biggins, Vatty, Knit, Buzz, and Summer, then all of our champions, Andrew Merch, Neos Costa, Joshua Biggins Wilson, then the Knights of the Court, Crumbo, Double, Shiny Gem, Sarah Biz Boys, Moth Romance, Vatty Lemon, Fix My Nitrogen, Krill Fantasy 14, Wow, Eddie Stone, Allen, Heals for Life, Blue Dalek, and Warren Hemphill. Then all of our wanderers, Kristen, Sandwich Watch Emmys, Brian, oh my god, Sandwich Watch Emmy, Brian Griffin, Real, Record Basher 45, Ali Osman, Turk, John W, Juan M, S9, Star U, Will, Gippo, Kevlar, Dedon, Rexy, Young, Delon, Estelle, Olive, Brian, Branch, Pisha, Salty Eggs, Dia, Sanguinus, TV, Uos, Young, Scrib, Number 2, whatever this is, Vanessa Maru, Rosa P. Max Supreme, Just 40, Epic Rich Queen, 83, Mate, Wade, Marley, Giplin, Gilpin. Our average Pokemon fan, T-Day, No Offense, Michael Stein, Jay Gill, Grayson, Rom, Big Papa, Gouch, Vonson, Clips, Makel, Jace, James, Liz, Ocean Man 7, Internet Person to look into, Rolando, Jay, Calderon, Delinks, Tunkanator, Nori, Brett Richardson, Ethan Salzman, Mick Jethro, POVT, Muhammad A, Sunset Star, Dominic Ziak, Fruit Punch Clamp, Hat, Pedro Mereco, Commander Flyboy, JC, Brian Perez, Donkey Nug, Ada Karakak, Napoleon Bonaparte, Tulip Tyler, Nathan Violin, Delta Spartan, Andrea Valen, Leslie Lectier, Chumpel Silskin, Freddy 1234, Kenneth Abidroff, Brandon Crutchfield, Crutchford Bun, Dawson Reed, Hotshot James, Diane DeDigger, Hank Hackon H, Eve Seller, Crosby's Gaming Stars, Angel Juarez, Hashim Akamos, Smitty Waberman, Jaegerman Jensen, Sam Wasabi, Handbook Dirks, Nathaniel Matthews, Yaga the Demonic Nebo, Dunze, Neko, Dunze, Jonas 00, Lemon, Dragavion, Solo Dolce, Datboy Frito, Zukier, Seth Coleman, Rexiel, Timid Warlock, AQ Cheeky, Tom, Luigi the God, Funky Ratty, Kit, Katuos, the Lowland Figment, Delightful Nerd, Mark, Morgoth, Astartes, Dragon, Pulp, Lifting, Hings, Fab, Hags, Arxis, Off Balance, Hayden, 42, PP, Holy, Top Jabriel, Timeline, Copper Smith, Ink, Mina, Mori, Bog B. Schmidt, Jacob Thies, Wasp, Wisteria, Ponyboy, 44, Maisie, Whamma Wham, Cristelion, Joe Heron, Pika Miku, Not Plague HD, Snows the Leaves, Jerry Rivera, M. Mir, Manico, TH73, Spurgalicious, Cindy, House, Abdallah, Eladi, Dr. Jack, the Half-Dead Anachronist, Turbo Fish, Zama, Thibs, 2341, Fart, Bob D. Fish, Eric Pelayo Moreno, Brian C., Anthony Wells, Bradley McDonald, Sammy James Wilson, King Cobo, Bubba Chris, Bo, Cheese, Cool Breeze, Dylan Bear, Corrigan, Nick Garcia, C. Brett Miller, Riz Smith, Spooky Spirit Wiz, Softy and Kai, Michael Hayes, Gory Malcolm, Suki Suzuki, the 232, the Black Dragon, Phantomations, Allison Warren, Acesso, Mythier, Maps God, Jam, Ghost, Nix, Arabia, and Adam, the Pokemon Weave, Clearly Milk Meteors, Kieran, Tim Markel, Neil the Simp, Invert Falsus, Marcus Hall, Yagal Cow, 12fu, Nix, you, Lumac, Dragon King, Just Dragon, Kaya Suzuki, Professor Bond, Night Owl 707, Mrs. Oro, Dakota Couch, Brad Studheimer, Drixel, Carl Jean, Hunter Owl, Hussein Kassam, Rebecca Connell, Hugh, Jappy W, Memento Mortem, Corn, Avery Koreshi, Katie Divine, Jatori Phoenix, 1, Free Fantasia, Jake Young, JC Hero, Him on Friday, Daniels Eats, April Walston, Planet Blob, Margie, Edward Kasowski, Vetica Fox, Evil Chan, Panda, Nerd, Screeberg, Hag, Audi Cadabra, Dextron Gaming, King Pie, Jack of the Frost, Rescue Snivy, Ruby, Addy C, Jacob Square, DJ Milk 23, Squidwater, Rye Smith, Gamer, Bad Dragonite, Just JM, Star S, Empty, Horse Cocktail, Hey Bell Yeet, Micah 66 Gaming, Muse Arwell, Talumio, Gwendolyn, Eastgander 072, Andrew Frost, Speak Anonymous, Summon Slaw, The Knock Nguyen, Ian Ray, Big C9, Corner of the Cobb, Jojo, and Sealy King, The Fornias, Daniel Tracy, Garrett Hoffman, Rosev, Dylan Peters, Malachi Burkhart, Carlisle, and Heather Wisen. I just was not in time for the Heart Gold end credits, but nevertheless, thank you all for supporting the channel. Thank you all for being here. If you want to hear your name at the end credits, please do consider becoming a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month, or go into the higher tiers. You get behind-the-scenes content, special voting, and my early access to content. Nevertheless, anyway, again, thank you so much for watching. Don't think I would do. Don't think I would do. I lost my outro. Please don't think I would do. Don't think I would do. Please see next to each other. I love you. I'll see you next time. There it is. Bye.